ready to,
Right.
I'm just gonna let it start here.
you know, because you have to announce, okay.
Right.
It's California.
And California always has more like stringent stuff, right?
My daughter works out there
Where is she?
in Los Angeles. Yeah. We were just talking, trying to figure out what she likes.
Well, he might want to use this to see who other people, right?
Yeah, that's why I was asking, like, if he wanted a computer to actually just be able to see, but if he wants to be heard.
Rory, you might want to grab your iPad just so you can see the other people too, unless you want to sit with my actual computer, which you can. And just be the host from there.
No, so why don't I, I'm not in here.
And then you can
Only
see
because we may need that chair.
Right. Oh, why don't you share? Yeah. This is separate.
Do we have a? Oh, are we using Barazooms?
No, yours. I set a new.
Oh,
meeting.
sorry,
I just created a meeting just for this.
it bumped onto yesterday's.
I have to hop onto a Barra meeting too.
I'm not getting any connection.
Are you on the wireless?
No, I'm not getting a Zoom link on what you sent. Oh, there it is. Okay, join.
Got it?
Yeah, I got it. Sorry, it was usually I look below. Okay.
Recording in progress.
Oh, that's feedback. Yeah, I'll mute mine. Although I am muted, so am I picking up off of this?
Pick up on that.
This is the problem we always have is when we have.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
How to do it, but you gotta do it. It just, at some point you have to try.
I think that we.
Is this the, oh, this is.
Oh, you can say, I mean, you can say.
Yes, last time when I was in here, I was sitting here and I was like, where, I didn't see a Zoom screen.
Yeah, you can say
It's
whatever you
behind
want.
me.
This guy picks up on voices, so we'll probably turn around and zoom in and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, we're all-
Is anybody on right now?
I hope so, like we had like our best. What time is it?
Hi, guys.
Is that Todd?
Is that time?
Hello.
Can you hear us okay?
Oh, yeah, perfectly.
Charlie's at the theater. Still getting feedback.
At least the air's on, feels good.
Great.
First thing I do, I get in before Stephanie does. An hour later, she's like, turn it down just a little. But we both run a little hot, so we're actually on the same page. You know, we like it really cool. We used to have half the office moved down to the city. there is definitely a difference of opinion at different times of the year.
Yeah, I'm sure.
'Cause it's weird, like my office controls the offices, and then this one controls the outer, so that's really tough in terms of.
We have so many zones that, it's like I'm always running around. I have it on
I'm
my,
sure your building is like,
and I have it on my phone, so,
Oh, gosh.
people are like, Nancy, can you turn it up? Can you turn it down?
it's dangerous. Too much access.
I know, I'm like, okay, here we go.
I wonder if I disconnect my audio.
Who else do we need on the call? Do we need to prompt
I
anybody?
don't know who else, it's just, I had Todd. If I disconnect my audio.
Look at how beautiful it is here, guys. Look at that lake. Isn't that pretty? So this is all around us. It's all pine trees.
Yeah, so that's.
Oh, we
And there's my
can't see
daughter. She
right
just got done a
now.
workout class.
You're kind of,
Oh.
you're on the side.
We don't have you on the screen up here.
Boo.
Sorry. Todd's trying to give us a panoramic view of where he is.
Well, that's good because I'm very sweaty. Woo.
He
All
might
right,
be
so
on Rory's
Rich
screen.
asked
I
if
don't know
we
what's
were
going on there.
Rich asked if we were switching to Wade's office. I told him no.
So what?
He's here.
Wait, what's that?
Okay.
What do you say?
Here's Rich is here.
Rich is here.
Excellent. Hello.
You're Rich.
And
Hi,
what did you
Rich.
say, Todd, that you sent people to Wade's?
No. Rich asked if we were switching to Wade's.
Oh,
I didn't see
okay.
anything, so.
No. But I did notice this morning, you may have seen that, what was on Trello said Wednesday.
I saw
Yes.
that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And so it depends on what kind of person you are. Do you follow the date or the file that he,
The day or the
Day of the
night?
week.
What's in your calendar?
Nice, especially as soon as you pointed that out. Thank you.
no, it's fine. I gotta figure out how to disconnect my audio now. Charlie went to the theater, so give him 2 minutes. He's walking.
So how do you work? So what is in Trello? You mostly through the app or through the web?
Either way, it's just a, like an organization program, or you just joined it.
Yeah, I'm on my phone, but it looks it's better on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the old theater there.
Yeah.
I actually am in. I wasn't sure if I was, but I
Yeah,
responded and I'm like, or I clicked on something and it brought me in. So I was like, oh,
I've been putting all our documents are here. The proposal from D3, and when we get a proposal that here, and got an application in. That's just a way of organizing things.
Great.
Google Docs also works. I just couldn't get in. So I was like, fine, I'll start.
No,
something.
this looks really clean.
I
there's so many
Meetings.
platforms.
so many platforms, and a guy who's another company, he said he swears by it. They're remote all over the country. He said they use Trello, keeps them on the table.
Okay.
That's great to know.
So,
Yeah.
we could try it.
I wonder what Wade
If
is.
it stops working, just find something better.
Mhm.
Great.
We're all on Teams,
Yeah,
and then, before that, we were kind of on Google a little bit, now we're on Teams.
I even tried Slack. I could never get anybody to use Slack.
We use Teams.
You do?
Yeah.
We could, if that works better, then I can switch to that.
Are you doing the Zoom through Teams?
No, we're just doing straight Zoom, yeah. We use Teams for one side of the business.
It's not down to that. I probably don't.
So
Front and center.
He's over there on the side.
Okay.
He's looking at the wall, a window.
We will get a few shares going.
You
So
slide
why don't
it.
we,
I'll scoot this way.
I'll let you guys flank here, I'll take this chair.
No, I'll sit on the corner here. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Sure. Okay, I'll come right back.
There's a few more.
Someone else coming.
With Wade, I hadn't heard from Sydney. So.
Okay.
Sydney's gonna come in virtually.
Okay. And Wade, I thought we.
Wade should be there.
Wade, yeah, he's not sitting in his office. One person. Give us a couple
What's
minutes for
everybody
what
called?
happens.
I'll slide over.
I am Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
Jennifer, nice to meet you.
Shut, we're open.
Charlie, we'll ask you.
Charlie.
Just for a sec, and then.
Hi, Lauren.
Jones.
Hey, Lauren. Jen,
Rich, good to meet you.
nice to meet you.
Charlie.
How are you doing?
Jen, nice to meet you.
You as well. How you doing? Charlie?
Charlie.
Good
How to catch your.
Rich.
Rich.
I'm the director at the Wayne Arts Center
Oh,
and
nice.
John Frondorf is taking a class.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
not right now.
He's taking a watercolor class.
He's in Michigan.
Not now, but
Yeah.
the class ended.
He,
The class-
he's officially retired, right?
Yeah.
I saw the name and I'm like,
It's been a little
Boy.
while. It's been a little while.
wonder if it's the same Frondorf. Yep.
Yeah, I actually heard from him yesterday,
Oh, okay.
so we were
Yeah.
exchanging emails.
He said lives right down the street.
Yeah. He, his name has come up a couple times recently because do you live across from the street or do you know Stephen Barenhorst?
I know the name.
So he's his neighbor and he ran into him and he's talking to John, so that's funny.
I use Stephen for a bunch of projects
Oh, yeah.
of my business. It's a little, mix of science project.
The Barra name came up recently because I was at the PACVC event and they were talking, saying wonderful things about the work you're doing in Kensington. Groundbreaking
He's best
stuff.
in the Kensington Corridor Trust
Yeah,
and.
people were raving
tough road.
about it and the woman who's leading it, whose name I'm forgetting.
Yeah, Barra's gotten more into impact investing as part of their investment portfolios, so it's kind of getting the best of both worlds, making a little money, slightly below market rate, but you're also, it's
Right.
almost like a grant too. at the same
Sure.
time. And eventually how you book it in that night is if you end up losing money, it goes in as a grant, it goes in as an investment. It's a lot of these CFIs and BRIs and other things. Pretty interesting. A lot of philanthropy will sort of start. Move there a little. You didn't pick up his phone, you did a quick text. And then start.
Where are the locations of Kensington? Are you
Is Sydney in as well?
But
are you up near K and A? Is that where you guys are?
not quite, but.
Let me-
yeah, it's
I'll look at
along,
the screen.
Front Street?
A little west of front.
American?
No, not that far.
Not yet. I'll send her a
See you in
message.
moment. It's the main east to west artery, and then the other sort of between front and back. Okay. Fortunately,
We just did a 48 unit low income redevelopment there. Okay, that can it basically.
In Indiana, yeah, which is why I was at PACDC getting a
Yeah.
award.
It encompasses some. Oh, there's some. Wait,
That's where.
Okay. I don't know if you ever crossed paths with Wade.
Yeah.
Real estate. A lot of his work is with urban after.
Yeah, so I looked at the website, pretty impressive. Pretty impressive.
And as such, the Wade's across this way that they still own. If, should have been beer hall, German beer hall, which is what I wanted, but.
Well, that's what I thought it was
Agreed.
gonna be. I thought it was gonna be
Right, that's
like
a great
a.
idea, I just didn't get too much out of it.
Distillery, they also work.
Well, I
Just-
both, I mean,
Yeah,
and now
why
with
not?
new laws, you can send SPC to do a little. That's the whole point.
Send
Take
me
advantage
a
of my
sign, too.
brother-in-law's like a.
Yeah, they're getting a
It's
little bit of
winery.
feedback I can hear. I was just trying to help them out. HR.
Hey, Charlie, what you doing? How are you? Nice to meet you.
So.
So who's Rich then? Because she's on a call too, so.
Rich.
Nice.
I'm gonna mute you.
Perfect.
Can you guys hear us, Todd? Sydney?
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
And Sydney, I
Yep.
muted you. Okay, good.
Yep, I can hear you.
And can you see anything other than the back of my head?
Your ear right now.
We can see the table.
You want to, if you can switch to this, you want.
So should we start with introductions? I have to admit, I was thinking more of like a site walkthrough. And so I brought
It's a little too hot today.
eyes and ears, and I wasn't.
There's no AC.
I'm not prepared with a formal presentation, but we have a phenomenal presentation. You're just gonna have to trust me on that. And maybe we'll do it some other time. So Charlie Molesky, I'm the managing partner, Becker & Frondor. I've been there for 18 or such years. Been a partner for over a decade. I come from the project management side, where I've had the good fortune of working with Rory on a couple of things. I tend to focus on institutional projects when I do project management. Extremely excited and proud that a project we just finished in DC, whose ribbon cutting is Friday, just ended up on the cover of Architectural Record. So that's a huge achievement. For us, we're very excited. It's at the Folger Shakespeare Library. So look for the press. And yeah, before that, I was in nonprofit project management, typically doing urban public space, community development type projects. So that's me in a nutshell.
Hi, I'm Jen Flanagan with Becker & Frondorf. Prior experiences in architecture, I've been with BNF for about a year now, solely as a PM. But prior to that, working in campus planning, a lot of zoological work. And very excited to be here today.
And what are you working on at BNF?
Currently working with the Franklin Institute, National Constitution Center, on two. One exhibit is wrapping up construction, the other we're at conceptual schematic phase.
Joseph Trump, senior project manager. I've been at Becker & Frondorf for 8 years. Tend to focus on hospitality, tenant fit out, I guess golf clubhouse. Probably a little bit of everything. Maybe not so much on the institutional side, like Charlie said, but anything that's, and I have past experience in working with subcontractors, general contractors. So come to Wayne, walk past the Wayne Theater a lot. It's my wife and I's usual date night spot, so very familiar with the building.
You want us to?
Sure,
introduce you?
yeah.
Okay, we're, how are you? Thanks for coming, appreciate it. As John said, we've worked together for quite a long time. I'm in real estate development.
Rich Mattis, I own Griffin Coffee down the street, and super excited to see the theater back up and running.
Any relation to Pete Mattis?
No.
Okay.
Local?
Well, Philly, Bucks County guy. He's my personal trainer. Not that. But he's also like a therapist, career counselor.
Yeah, he's gotta be a relative.
Is that aura?
Yeah, definitely.
Lauren Addis, I'm an art advisor at the business just a few doors down, frame shop and gallery focused on regional emerging artists.
I'm Nancy Campbell. I'm the executive director of Wayne Art Center, which was founded in 1931. Oldest art centers in the suburban Philadelphia area. And I have been there since 1987. So seen a lot of things change over the years. And we're really excited about this project.
And I'm Wade McDevitt. I live about 2 miles from the project. And I'm the CEO founder of the McDevitt Company, which is a real estate development investment and also a brokerage company.
Todd, Sydney, you guys want to just do a quick
Sure.
hello?
Sure. Sorry, guys. I'm a little sick. I've just went through a restaurant opening, so I'm super run down. Sydney Grimm's partner at Fearless Restaurants, family-owned company, and fourth generation, doing restaurant development and design.
And I'm Todd Scott. I'm Platoon Fitness and Kenai Realty.
Great. So I thought maybe give you the 30-second elevator pitch on kind of who, what, and all that kind of stuff. So about 2.5 months ago, we formed the 501c3 and put the board together. There's Jay Weber, who's missing, is that it? And as you can see, it's a mass of people that all work, live, and love within a mile of Wayne Movie Theater, and have a lot of contacts in the community too. And there were a couple of other competing entities, which I think because of the group we have here, trumped them very quickly and easily. One sort of an outside group altogether. And I mean, the whole goal of all three groups was to get this thing up and running. Although the difference, one of them was for profit, we're nonprofit. And I think the owner of the building appreciated the fact of who we had amassed, all that kind of stuff. And we've got a lot of sort of ancillary people waiting on the wings too to jump in. So I think it's going to be a very exciting and successful project. All things get said and done. So we're in the stage of going down multiple parallel tracks with design, construction, obviously the need for owner's rep, fundraising, PR. It's like every week we're meeting with sort of a different genre of people. And to some extent, time is of the necessity. We can't, but we also need to raise the money and so forth. I don't know if you have much familiar with Bryn Mawr Film Institute.
Sure.
VMA did that as well. I can't remember if they had an owner's rep come in to help them, but
Can't remember either.
they, it took them, 2 to 3 years to put it together. Our goal is to hopefully get enough to get ourselves off the ground, to maybe start really in earnest with work early next year. So,
Okay.
yeah, don't know if you have any other questions for us in regards to the
Have a
project.
couple, and feel free to jump in. So it was a previously operating theater, so what kind of condition is it in? How much work needs to be done? What kind of things are you envisioning? That's sort of the first group of questions, and then
Okay. Well, and I'll start and please everyone else jump in too. Fully operating theater with 5 screens until just prior to COVID, and they had been, like a lot of small movie theaters coming out of the 2000s, started suffering from the large multiplexes. My own opinion is I think with 5 screens, they probably were overreaching a little in terms of, what a small theater probably now moving forward should be doing. The owner cleaned things up, didn't fully gut it, but cleaned things up. So ADA slopes and all that kind of stuff are still in there, but probably not good. That's my guess.
It's more than a footbridge.
Yeah, so there's some significant work. Our goal is actually to bring it down to 3. And the 3, we're interested in putting in some really high-end seats so that, that's part of the draw is to, hey, come in and, this isn't just, your typical sort of in. So, it's not going to have, the largest theater is not going to have 500 seats. It's, the current estimate, it's maybe 160, 170, we'll see. And we've done some initial reach out to companies in tech, my buddy Phil,
Sure.
IMC, and Cumbie. And they ranged anywhere from 3.5 to almost 6, 3.89 to 6. IMC never gave us official number. They said here's the range, it will fit in there, which is sort of an easy thing to do. So there's some work. Of course, that's soup to nuts, which includes, the FF&E and a variety of other things too. It's just not sort of the
Probably needs all new mechanicals as you would suspect.
Yeah. And our goal was to really have this be a pillar of the community, for lack of better words. So it's not just going to be a theater. I mean, our interest is TED Talks, collaborations with artists, showings, with restaurants, with 118 North does music, and perhaps, and us, collaborate on a concert, and children's series, all those kinds of things. Primarily a movie theater, of course, but balancing all that so that it can be something that the community really rallies behind, as opposed to, oh, another theater, sure, that'd be great, we want it up. But I think it is an important part of the community. I mean, Rich can attest to, when it went down, the effect potentially on his business and Wayne in general. And there's some other interesting things going on in Wayne also, which I won't get into, but I think this getting the theater up and running is also works very well hand in hand with some things that they're trying to do. Parking, I mean, this surface lot right here, which is AT&T, is going to be developed into, is that a mixed rate or is that just residential?
What?
The AT&T lot.
It's gonna be all resident, there's 40-some townhouse units and I think 2,000 square feet of retail.
Okay.
Or like 2,500
it's
square feet of retail.
mixed, yeah. So there's a variety of things going on, and of course, parking being a consideration of all that too, those kinds of things. So, yeah, I think I got all your questions.
Okay, and then I guess then, the next question's around sort of fundraising feasibility and that kind of stuff. So you're trying to raise, it's 3.5 to 5, probably 5 to 7.
10 is what,
10,
we're gonna put
okay.
down 10
Right.
because we think, we need to be ambitious rather than undercut ourselves.
And we'll obviously monitor the velocity of giving
Mhm.
to figure out where we are in the process and when we feel comfortable that we have the right momentum to get there. And take that leap of faith at that point, but
Yeah, as you know.
we're goaling 10 to have a goal.
Right.
But we're trying to create a space that has tons of optionality, is future-proof, that we can program differently as demands change and as needs and desires change, but with a film core, but with live performances, as Rory said, associated with that. But yeah, I mean, I think we're doing a lot of things on parallel paths right now because we're trying to do it better than, the 2-year timeline that, some of our neighbors have done.
And it's not too dissimilar to, educational projects or other nonprofit projects that, you're very careful about how much you raise before people start thinking, oh, what's going to happen, and so why should I give? So they're trying to create the need, the urgency within the community, but at the same time keep things moving along. We're not going to raise 10 and then start the project. That's just not feasible for us in terms of the lease, which the lease we do now have.
And then I get the next, that segues to so talk to me about the organization, hiring permanent staff, doing sort of test programs somewhere, whether they're sponsoring a film showing or a concert or a children's program, all of which sound really exciting. Are there plans to try to give the organization some momentum before it?
Yeah, I think again, we're multiple parallel tracks. Our initial thrust has been to find an operating partner rather than us become in the movie theater business. Confidentially, we've had talks with a number of people, including Benmar Film Institute, because they see the synergy of operating two and whatever resulting scales and costs, saving costs they can see. And we've got 1 or 2 other opportunities too. But we are in the process of hiring and have out there at least one full-time to start with, who would be sort of the ED managing person to start with. And then as needed to go from there. In terms of other full-time staff, an office next door has been outfitted with movie posters. It's the mailing address. So, we'll see. As I said, I think most of us agree we're not necessarily have a desire to become a movie business, but we'll see as we go. But it's a critical piece of it, and trying to figure out a nice balance, because knowing the program that we think we want to have in there too, at the same time, whatever, and there's different business models operating partners. So just we pay, subcontractor, or share in some revenue kind of thing too. So,
Right.
and we also have an interest in doing slightly different than the typical movie theater concessions too. You know, it's just not gonna be popcorn and juju fruit. So,
My God.
yeah, I mean, we're even considering alcohol too, potentially. And so we go to, so.
And Joe will come to Wayne more often.
Well, yeah, there's some challenges, of course, with that, socially, I think, you know, whether the committee wants it, but also liquor license and those kinds of things. You know, but there's some hybrids of getting someone who has their own license and serve wine and beer. I mean, we're not gonna go full bar, so I don't think that's the right path for the community.
I have more
You-
questions, but
well,
yeah.
You mentioned multiple paths. Are you talking to designers or?
Well, so VMA came in and since they did Bryn Mawr Film Institute, we paid them to do a very initial, just rough drawings, potential options for what a theater may look like. John Culver, do you know
Sure,
John?
Kluber, yeah.
Yeah, so John did Bryn Mawr Film Institute too, and you know, I don't think I would say he has the job, but you know, I think obviously getting another rep on board too as well before we take next steps there. But at the same time, we're asking John to give us his vision.
Would you want to go through a full architect selection?
I'm cautious to, you know, do a whole RFP situation from a time perspective, but you know, I think, you know, we need to hear what John has to say in terms of his vision and what he thinks he sees from this project and give us some estimation of his costs, those kinds of things.
So I'm
I
sure
mean,
they've done like food service stuff for their institutional clients,
Yeah.
but I don't know what their experience is with like bars and restaurants.
No, I don't think, yeah, I think you're right. I think you're spot on there. But I think they also did something wrong with street theater too, but I could be wrong.
That's JKRP.
No, that is JKRP. That's the other.
That building that never got built, yeah.
Yeah. So look, we're happy to do it. I'm, as I say, hesitant to, in my opinion, just do an RFP process that takes us down into the fall kind of thing. And, you know, we're really,
Right.
but I don't want to short circuit ourselves either. VMA is not going to be cheap. They're not the most expensive out there. Probably my buddy Tom Kirk at BCJ is one of them. But so we're trying to run, you know, a little bit of a thread to the needle.
Other questions?
I mean, on timeline, I mean.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
we'd like to hear from you guys too about a timeline and what you think sort of an estimate might be.
Yeah, tell us your process.
Sure. I'll tell you first a little bit about our firm.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Great.
I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. Becker and Frondorf, AKA B&F, does two different things. We do project management, owner's representation. We essentially run projects for entities, companies, nonprofits, very rare on occasion an individual that just doesn't have the in-house staff to do that. We also do construction cost estimating. Their clients are a little bit different. They work for architects who contractually are obligated to design to a client's budget. So they have to figure that out. 25 years ago, my previous partners, Bill and John, worked for another company. And they realized that there was sort of a synergy between the two. And they wanted to create a business that was pure consulting. They had worked previously for sort of a horizontally integrated, innovative construction development, owner's rep, estimating, et cetera, et cetera. And they found that sometimes the lines got blurred. So they just wanted to do pure consulting and provide advice that best suited owners and set owners up for success. Been around since 1998, 27 people. Most of us are in Philadelphia, one full-time person at Princeton, one full-time person in DC. We are basically 3/4 project managers, 1/4 estimators. And I feel like there's 3 business partners now, myself, the PM business partner, Joe Malinowski, who's not here, and then the estimating partner, Mike Zidell. What am I overlooking? I get it?
That's the shortest, overview.
I can go along. No, I should talk about the
Yeah.
industries in which
Yeah.
we're in. So we've gotten to know Rory through our work in independent schools. We do a lot of nonprofit institutions, a lot of museums, but a lot of other nonprofits such as Impact Services up at A in Indiana. We do a fair amount of hospitality work, mostly hotels, a lot of what they call PIP renovations, hotel renovations. So Joe's overseeing projects in
Boston, we got some Vegas, Texas, Colorado.
So which flags do you work with the most?
Right now, we're doing a lot of work with Sonesta, but I've done work with Marriott's, Hilton's. We did the ground up Hyatt centric downtown. So, but yeah, Sonesta's our big one right now. But everything comes in waves. So we do a lot of stuff with Host. We're trying to do a lot of stuff with Host, which owns Marriott's and everything like that. So, but what we're working right now is a lot of high end. I think the 3 big hotels we're doing are a lot of full service high end. Like restaurants. We're putting in a new White Plains, we're putting a new restaurant, new coffee shop in the hotel. So more than just a room renovation. So some of these projects are pretty involved.
Who does BPG's hotel work?
BPG.
In their own house. Yeah.
They're the robust project management staff.
Yeah.
The also AKA.
Yeah, AK. So downtown, AK has the AK Rittenhouse. So we're doing 2 projects in Boston for them, very high-end luxury, hotels. If you've been to Rittenhouse, you know their taste. So, but yeah, and then the White Plains one is Sonesta, and that's the other big one. And then we have a few smaller select service ones that we're working on as well.
So nonprofit institutions, hospitality, small adjunct, I would say, in that is a limited number of bars and restaurants. So Joe, not too long ago, finished the Garces Cafe at the Kimmel Center, which quickly became not a Garces Cafe. I don't know quite the whole story there, but
Ambitious.
Yeah, no, that was a good one. Then we also, we do a lot of clubhouse work. So again, we did clubhouse work, did kitchen bar. So that's generally
like private club,
private clubs.
So Joe worked at Marion
Marion
Cricket,
Cricket,
Philly Cricket, currently working
Philly Country Club.
So Joe also did the Yards Brewery downtown.
So you oversaw Martin WRT's work at Marion Cricket, or the 2 big phases? Or
We did the second. We did the exterior with the pool and all the little ancillary buildings.
That was the BRT as well.
That was WRT.
Yeah. So great story.
Because
You have a
Jenny
second.
was overseeing that too, right?
So I love the story because it involves Ed and
Ed Mahoney.
and so when we worked on the Agnes Irwin edition together, I was a young pup, just a newly named partner. The firm's, I would love longer discussion on the firm's evolved, but got to work with Ed Mahoney, who is a force of nature, Rory and Jenny Kincaid. So we started working at Marion Cricket, forget the year, for WRT as an estimator. Usually we don't combine both, sort of 2 separate businesses under one. We got an estimate, or we gave them an estimate. The estimate was, just using round numbers, $14 million. At the same time, they got an estimate from the contractor. Their estimate was $12 million. The club said, oh, I like this $12 million number a lot better. It sounds a lot better than $14 million. They went out and they based their assessment on $12 million. Lo and behold, that contractor went out of business. Eon Reeves, our good friends, sadly had some in bust and they went under. They brought in another contractor, WS Gumby, re-estimated the job a little further along in design. Lo and behold, the number was 14.2. They tried to work the number, couldn't come to an agreement, put it back on the street. Another contractor was chirping in their ears, I can do better. the numbers actually came in higher. So just as construction was starting and they had gone through a VE process, simultaneously permitting, the documents weren't quite finished as they went to contract, construction had to start to meet this aggressive schedule. I think Ed and Jenny were like, enough of this. And our phone rang. And they said, can you come do construction phase project management? So we only did, basically, it was probably the latest we've ever come in because construction had started.
Yeah.
And we came in and did the construction phase through the end of the project. So for the pool, the 3 or 4.
Paddle hut, little rest, has outdoor bar, kitchen,
Chris's
bathrooms,
bathrooms, Chris's maintenance.
maintenance buildings.
Yeah, that was a fun project, and I forgot where we were. So our process was the original question, and we ended up over here.
Yeah, I think, learning more a little bit about the process, what you think time frame might be, what, any sense of cost. I mean, obviously, as you said, you'll give us a formal proposal, but that would be very helpful.
Yeah, so to talk about our scope of services, we try to break it down into sort of 5 different buckets. One, it's our responsibility to manage the team. So we work with architects and their subcontractors, subconsultants, contractors, their subs. We'll work with any third-party people that you bring on. I've seen these seats that have speakers in them, all of which have to be wired by low voltage vendors, typically outside the construction contract because of the complexity of those. The screen people most likely will be outside the construction contract, all managing all that kind of stuff, but most importantly, helping to manage the client. So there's going to be a committee of people formed to have some oversight here. And we get it. You guys, you're going to have some time in Nantucket undoubtedly, and you're running a business, you're running a business, you're running a business. You're running a business and you have other things, you probably have families.
How did I get to Nantucket?
That didn't sound so. You guys have a bill now. But you have families. I don't know if any of you guys play golf, but you probably want to get some golf rounds in. You don't want to have to watch this project and worry about it day in, day out. So that's kind of where we come in. And we're very prescribed about our process. We like to have a series of kind of tiered standing meetings. So we will have an executive one-on-one kind of meeting with whoever the primary point of contact is. And that will be kind of to just direct traffic, organize vacation schedules, figure out how to get invoices approved, how do we get keys on a certain day to get in, and all that kind of day-to-day humdrum stuff. We will have a meeting with the oversight committee on a regular basis. Maybe that's bi-weekly, maybe that's monthly. Reporting to you guys on major issues of budget, schedule, scope. And then there'll be a bi-weekly working group once we have an architect involved or contractor on board, where we're grinding up the meat and sticking in the casing to make the sausage. That's the dirty work. Those meetings are long, they're tedious. They'll go down specific rabbit holes that they need to go down to just address certain issues. But the working group reports to this group, and then the executive kind of helps facilitate everything from there. And of course, sort of ad hoc end user meetings or neighbor meetings or whatever the case might be. That's sort of our process. We also focus a lot on budget. So one of the very, very first things we would do is we would look at these numbers that we've gotten from contractors. Now, I don't want to ever disparage contractors because I have a tremendous amount of respect for the work that they do. Anybody wants to go put on a roof right now, today, God bless them. It's not easy work. It's dangerous, it's dirty, it's hard. But I do know that when people are put in sales positions, they might tell you some optimistic things. And so we would want to look at that information very, very closely. We would take the scope of work to our estimators, get them to kind of come up with a, maybe not an estimate, but a reasonable order of magnitude ballpark number.
Do you think you see us as a lump sum or GMP?
I mean, that's that really
Go
kind
either
of
way.
depends upon you guys. You know, we also have developed, you know, taking the methodology that we use
For GMP.
Yeah, so
For GMP, going through that process, transparent, getting, bids and stuff, and then flipping that to a lump sum, offer the contractor a little incentive at the end, to flip it from one to the other. So we've had some success, doing that recently. And contractors seem to be open to it just because it probably, takes a lot of the heat, like the spotlight off them and questioning. They're saying that here's the numbers, and here's our fee, and
yeah, it's like a negotiated lump sum,
Yeah.
somewhere between a,
Yeah.
classic design bid build and a GMP.
And then it keeps like a lot of the paper, because nobody really wants to do all the paperwork associated with the GMP, so I think everyone's like, yeah, we can get rid of all that paperwork and everyone's happy.
The three that we've heard from are all, I mean, I think they sense the high profile nature of this gig. If they want, for at least this area, the mid to western Main line. So I do share a little bit of concern about them being a little over aggressive in the bids. And, it was very 20,000 foot
Sure.
bid too. So, I mean, that's again, one of the reasons why we're also thinking of a higher number.
Mhm.
And you feel, obviously any of those three that I mentioned could do the work.
Sure. I mean, I think, my only question about, I love Intech. I would work with Intech on every job if I could. They make life easy.
Yeah, no,
They're never gonna be,
The lowest level.
no, of course not. I mean, the union issue has to do with that. So.
yeah, so, I mean, and company's great. We've also had good experience with Wolfson. We've had great experience with Delran. So there's a lot of non-union contractors.
Wilson's are they up in Devon, where their offices?
Well,
Is that Rod Wilson?
no, that's he's an architect that's not a sophomore. This is WOHLSEN,
Oh, okay.
not WOLFSON.
They're, I think Lancaster, they're down Lancaster the other way.
Lancaster and Wilmington.
They're down like a Paoli area, I think.
They do work in.
Is Cummings, did they do Marine Cricket?
They did very
Yes.
quickly. Yeah. We're working with them on another golf club, and
Private residence.
we're working with them on a private residence, we're working with them on a independent.
They
school.
did
Yeah, we're working
St.
with-
David Church 6 or 7 years ago, Woodland School,
Mhm.
about that same time frame. So they've done a variety of work in this area.
Yeah, I've seen their sign.
Still family owned, though I think Cumbie Seniors
It's Bill 3, I think is.
is, he's
Yeah.
running it, but he's retired.
I saw the dad at this private residence like 2 weeks ago, so he still keeps a hand in it.
Okay.
So, it's good to see that.
And I will say, I work with them, with Woodland, and that was right in middle of COVID.
Yeah.
So they were really sharp in terms of having to pivot and deal with shutting down, then trying to be safe. And schools, you get 15 months of schools, the goal is you have to start in June and then go to September the following year, so you only miss one school year. So it was a challenge for them. I think they did a pretty decent job.
Yeah, I think they did a good job. I mean, that somehow we were one of the first projects that got opened up. We got special permission to keep going. And, at that time, it was very unclear what was gonna happen with COVID, and they never backed down. They never said this, they never complained, they just kept moving, so.
You taking work with Blue Rock?
No,
No.
no, but they're largely an urban, I mean, I've,
Yeah, I mean, they're out of Montgomery County, they started out doing a lot of industrial, and they're also diversified into office and retail.
yeah. I mean,
But they do a lot of industrial distribution, but they are doing a fair amount of office right now.
I had, some friends in the facilities group at Urban, but they've all moved on, but I remember them mentioning him a lot, so.
give us a sort of a high level look on time frame, kind of
Oh, yeah.
what you might
right.
see as part of that.
So,
scope.
because I didn't finish my thought on budget, so we really lead with budget because we have that sort of estimating engine. So one of the first things we would do is just try to make sure your budget is accurate and then thorough and complete. So we've got all the architects, if they have any specialty consultants, food service, AV projector, kind of making sure that the throws are correct. Making sure all the budget has all the FF&E, any kind of specialty stuff that's needed, trying to figure out whether you guys want to lease or purchase the food service equipment, et cetera, and just trying to make sure that's comprehensive. So that's a very big piece for us. Usually it doesn't take that long to put together, but then we use that to buy architecture services, other consultant services, so that you're buying the right kind of amount of services for your budget. Schedule is huge for us. So we feel as if you control the budget, if you control the schedule, you can control the budget. If you control the schedule, you can control the quality. When the schedule gets pushed, you lose control of the budget, you lose control of the quality, of drawings or installation. So we are like very, very conscious of making sure the budget's accurate. And I think 6 months to do documentation for a $3 million to $5 million project seems tight to me.
So that's 6 months to design docs or construction docs?
So, but you're at 0 right now. You've got no. So,
0.6.
That's some drawings.
Early schematic.
Early schematic.
Very conceptual feasibility.
Yeah, so, and then we don't know there's no narrative or anything for the MEP. No MEP engineers set foot here. We haven't looked at different options.
No, we have the owner survey,
Yeah.
Owner survey.
and it's a sophisticated owner, so we gave good information. We have their asbestos, their environmental reports and their MEPs.
Pages.
And so are you, just clarify the real estate, are you leasing from them? Or
Yes.
is there a
Leasing.
closing involved?
Leasing,
You're gonna lease from.
long-term lease.
Lease.
And it's
Potentially buy.
any TI or anything?
Free rent. Allowances.
Free rent,
TI is in the form of free rent,
so it's all on you.
all on us.
Construction contract on you. Design contract on you.
Yep.
As is, what you see is what you get.
Other than environmental,
Other than
structural,
environment.
yeah.
Okay.
significant free rent.
Starting
Last week.
starting last week. All right.
Starting at lease execution, we have due diligence period, and we have approximately 2 years of free rent. And a very low base rent as well.
But you hope to execute the lease relatively soon.
Yes, but we have a due diligence period built into the lease with a termination, right to terminate. So during our internal exercise, if we at any point get skittish, we have an exit.
Gotcha. Helpful.
Yeah, so we can do our diligence, drill down on numbers. If there's some big wow surprise, we have a parachute.
It's a friendly landlord. I mean, the relationship is good. I mean, there's a reason
It's
why
a very, very.
we're in here, the for-profit group had a lot more muscle. But he wanted us, and so it's been a good relationship.
All right, yeah, so from a traditional standpoint of getting an architect sort of formally signed up, getting a proposal from them that's full and complete, going through completing schematic design, we would strongly recommend an estimate at that point to verify the budget, verify those early numbers. That enables you to do the VE, finalize the scope of the project. Then there's sort of a toll gate after that, which is you could say go, and then you authorize some more money. That probably would be coterminous with whatever due diligence
Our exit.
Yeah. So we would want to just have that gut check. Toll gate theoretically goes open. The mechanical engineer who would have provided to that point some sort of narrative would then begin to document the actual stuff. Their documentation would have to be coordinated with the architectural documentation. And, maybe you go straight to CDs from there, without another estimate. Again, it's how much risk do you want to bear? Do you want to call timeout at the end of a certain part of design development? Do another estimate, maybe at that point, bring in GC, an independent cost estimator, and just get 2 senses of what things cost. And then pull another toll gate, pull the trigger on CDs and complete it. So that's sort of the design period. And we're sitting here, it's basically July 1. You got 6 months to do that. Feels a little tight to me. I don't know, you're an architect. You have
I
it
mean, it's certainly
documented.
not within our 90 days. That's
Right.
the understanding.
No, there's gonna be a Hail Mary moment at 90 days, or finger in the air, out of the field.
Well, I would hope to have schematic design completed before the.
Yeah, we usually have early numbers based off of schematics, enough that we got check it. The construction really isn't that complicated. I mean, the biggest, I think, unknown here is gonna be MEP distribution around that. I don't think that demising the walls, soundproofing will be obviously a big issue. Related to that, dealing with the slopes and seat installations. But I think, your biggest gotchas are probably gonna be the MEPs. So if we can quantify the
It's not
MEP
like a-
exposure to some degree.
It's not like a complete rework of the inside where like.
Re-demising,
Just
configuring.
adding demising, but it's not like completely.
You're working within a box.
Yeah.
So you're creating 4 rooms, you're creating 3 to 4 rooms within a box. I'm not suggesting that's not complicated.
No.
There are nuances, intricacies around that, but you're building 4 boxes.
But
So-
there's more great work.
There's some site work is good, some serious grade work will probably be the other big one. And whether slopes, whether we do. Great
Interior.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no site here.
But the schematic, I think 90 days is probably a challenge schematic. You say it's not a problem, but we're sitting here today without an architect, without, geez,
Well, let's ask the person who's actually had to document stuff professionally. So do you think we could do schematic design within 90 days?
I think if we accelerate the process of finding an architect to do that work, then you could definitely hit that 90-day mark for that schematic package. And often what we've done, let's say you have an architect who you have in mind, maybe it's the architect you've already talked to. There's minimal risk in engaging them for call it the schematic feasibility session. And then in that toll gate period, you can also then reassess, do we want to continue with this architect? So we've kind of accelerated that process by saying, listen, we already have one that we relatively trust. We don't need to waste 2 to 3 weeks in finding multiple architects to give us proposals. We can do that process once we hit our first toll gate before we get into design development. So that would be my recommendation on how they're going to move forward.
Have you built a theater before?
I've done a lot of work at the Academy of Music. So,
Who are the other architects besides JKRP and BMA locally?
So,
Have some experience.
yeah, so we've been working on for a long time a performing arts center for Central High School in Philadelphia, like a $45 million project. They have got $2 million in the school district that's, what's the word that I'm looking for? Obstructional, what is the word? I can't. In the way and in the way. That's MGA, and they've done other pretty high-end performing arts.
Who's the architect doing it?
Katie Bro.
Yeah.
MGA Partners.
We had Katie come in front of us.
And
Did they do like Wilma Theater or some theaters in Philadelphia?
I don't think they did Wilma. I couldn't tell you though who did that for sure.
Since I know I've met them.
That was VMA, that beautiful.
Yeah, so they're a portfolio.
That's.
Which one is that?
Penn Charter.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, that's like, I think that's like a slightly different,
Acknowledgement Shea was the architect down at the Academy for their basically.
John Kluber also did the seat renovation. That was actually
Yeah.
right before we went in.
Walking it back a little bit besides MEP, I think the acoustic attenuation, all that stuff is gonna be incredibly complicated, and that's a big unknown from a cost perspective. I've never worked with that, so I have no idea I have no idea what to expect around that.
They, they'll hire an acoustic consultant, probably like a Metropolitan.
Yeah.
acoustics is the go-to person.
Oh, that was one Todd was one that called, just went and visited a theater up in Rhode Island, a gold standard in this space. And they said one of their challenges was soundproofing between the theaters.
Right.
When you had live performance next to film.
Yeah.
Especially with music.
You have the benefit that you're essentially have a shell that you're working
Right.
within, so you can do it correctly from ground up.
So, and our estimators have the benefit of working with a lot of different architects. But they're doing so many estimates, sometimes I don't focus on individual projects, so the questions caught me a little flat-footed. So I'll do a homework assignment and go ask who might be good in that.
Yeah, I think we're gonna based on all the time schedule and everything that we're talking about, I think we're gonna be making a decision quickly about whether, in my own opinion, we're gonna just go with BMA because we think they've got enough experience, and which I think they do, versus wanting to go out and do an RFP and spend, several weeks, not wasted, but it's just added to this time schedule.
I guess BMA also understands what you guys are already looking for as well, so you don't have to.
Yeah, well, they've done one.
Yeah.
I mean, that we're aware of it, but you probably don't know the answers, I'm sure you don't, off the top of your head. From an ADA perspective, slope for theaters, for gallery theaters.
No.
It
Code,
should be similar, like 1 to 12.
Yeah,
It's
still the same 1 per foot.
Yeah.
So they apply the standard ADA applies to the grade.
I'm sure there's
Even
something,
if
where-
you have egress, yeah.
I'm sure there's probably a percentage of the seats that need to be accessible.
At grade.
At a certain level,
Right.
so.
So when, so the Fringe Festival has that super steep rake.
Mhm.
How do they achieve
They have
that?
ADA seats at the bottom.
at the
Yeah.
bottom.
The bottom.
So you have to have an accessible path wherever you provide the seats, whether it's at the top or at the bottom. And it has to be as equivalent of an experience as possible. And there's a percentage, I don't remember
Yeah,
off the top of my
percentage of
head.
the total seats, so if you're reducing the
And
seats
I think,
down.
and I think they have to have an escort seat as well.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Right. Flexible seating option to bring portable.
So if you're like reducing the number of seats in the theater down, that percentage of accessible seats would also go down with that.
And one of the challenges with the big deluxe seating is it takes up a lot of square footage.
Yeah,
We like it,
that might
but
be a
that's-
VE item.
Exactly.
Also.
The cost and the
Yeah,
square
and the
footage
space.
efficiencies or
Yeah.
inefficiencies of it. So it's
Right.
huge.
Yeah.
It also affects your restrooms, which can be one of the larger square foot, costs and how you approach your restroom. So if you have a capacity of 100 people, you have a certain number of toilets that you need to provide, and that can very quickly kind of escalate your costs as you increase your capacity in the building.
And there's also the possibility, we have in this committee get to whether our F&B is going to be self-performed or whether we're going to commissary it. And that will also influence our infrastructure
What
related
equipment
to
you need, right.
equipment and design.
Right.
Yeah, so those are other big unknowns.
Right.
They'll come out of the schematic exercise on
Mhm.
parallel path while we're having operational discussions.
Right. Then the other, from a schedule perspective, the other, I guess, question I would have, is the Radnor Township question. So if we're gonna move to an F&B scenario, does that require a change of use? If we're gonna do anything other than,
You'll make it a case it's accessory to the use, so, or ancillary or accessory to the use, so I think it's Radnor Township. And we're hoping for an incredibly hospitable environment because it's a not-for-profit initiative, but it could be use provision or use perspective.
so then that plays also into the 6 months,
Zoning and approvals, you mean like township?
yeah, so like right after the 90 days, we would wanna just file.
Well, they had concession there before, so it's grandfather concession, so that's not an issue, it's if we bring in liquor,
We bring in liquor.
so the concession wouldn't be an issue. There's precedent.
One of the commissioners stopped in the other day, just pulled me aside and said, I understand there's things going on. We're 100% behind you and anything I can do to help.
Wow,
great.
that's great.
Yeah, I've been
Oh, I know.
wrong about townships before, but I
She
do
was-
expect
she
Radnor
was
to be
thrilled.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Made no
pretty,
promises.
pretty
iconic.
Well, I think, as I said, I think there's other things going on in Wayne that I think they see all of this as synergy and a positive for them. But you're right, and one concept we've talked about, expressed a little earlier, was just beer and wine, bring in a wine provider or whatever who has his own license and, he can serve other Pennsylvania beer and that kind of stuff on a just one-off, two-off basis to see what it's like. But
Yeah, I
I don't
think,
know enough about that myself, so,
just from the
Yeah.
point of getting on whatever calendar, you have to file by a certain date, which is like 30 days before.
Yeah,
whatever
before the
day,
next
like,
meeting and
It just drags.
gotta
it.
hit the timing, right, sure.
And then every single, public approval process, they seem to come out with pitchforks and torches and,
I got Nick Kennedy already lined up, ready to go.
That's kind of nice.
rock, rock
Knows
music.
everybody.
Yeah, I did, yesterday, that's used.
So,
great.
I don't think
Usually on the
any
side
of
for-
that, I appreciate what you're saying.
You take a cord in, right?
I've got
I did have
scars, you
her.
can't see them because they're emotional scars. We've got scars from the various approval processes. So,
I'm cautious of time, so.
Yeah.
Why don't we see if we can 5-10 minutes more.
So for us, I think we're taking you the next 30 days, and it's, off of the road with documentation. You guys would be meeting regularly to oversee it in the following process. We really try to hone those numbers for FF&E, all the other kind of numbers, so that by the time you guys are ready to formally bring someone in construction on, that budget has been fully tested at every line item. Even if there's some financing that you guys are obtaining, we're going to make sure that the cost for the financing is part of the budget. If there's fundraising consultants that need to be accounted for, it's going to be, completed and non-speculative. Going out to bid will be kind of the next process. We've talked about doing it sort of two different ways. One, design, bid, build. If we're having to drive the number to the lowest point, that's the direction we'll go. If you guys are, concerned about things like quality, schedule, other factors, it may make sense to bring in a partner. Helps lower the risk to reduce the surprise on bid day. And then we would either go with a negotiated agreement or a GMP. It's kind of inside baseball stuff for those of you who don't live in this world every day. It's important to us, but yeah. And then, we have a process by which we actually bid out the non-subcontracted costs. So we will bid fee, bid GCs, bid insurance, bid bond costs, bid everything. So that enables you to, when you're bringing somebody on, bid those costs kind of upfront. And then also then do an open book bid, so everything gets 100% bid, even when it's a negotiated agreement. And then once construction starts, we will visit the site and on a regular basis, attending OACs, doing walkthroughs on non-OAC weeks. OACs are the owner, architect, contractor meeting, the job meeting.
Change order review, pay app review. So that fun stuff.
Since we're redemising, we're gonna take away any opportunity to grandfather in the slope, the grade. Since we're gonna be redemising the theaters. So that, so we're gonna have to comply, which means by virtue of that, we're gonna change our occupancy too.
Is it sprinkler? Not that it's a big cost, but
That should be. So, work done.
Yeah.
General sense of the scope of your fees, or you want to wait to shoot us something formally? Or?
yeah, it ain't rocket science to figure this stuff out. Our fees are a function of the time we think we'll spend on a project. So in pre-construction, it's one thing, a little bit less than construction. It's a little bit more time consuming. But we figure, Joe, who bills at, $1.50 an hour, would spend 8 hours a week during pre-construction and I don't know, 16 hours a week during construction. And we're project managers, we bill at like $125, would spend 20 hours in pre-construction and 24 in construction or something like that. we'd like to have a partner involved, whether it's myself or Joe, who most people tend to like more than me. So, so just to have some sort of senior level oversight, make sure our team is well resourced, if there's any kind of weird things that come out of a project, then those fall on our plates. If we're trying to work this real estate deal with the school district, like that's way above any senior project manager's head, so that falls to me. That's what I get to do. And then we develop a monthly lump sum from those, and we say, for every month of pre-construction, we'll bill X, and for every month in construction, we'll bill Y. And as long as the pre-construction period is, I don't know, 9 months, you would know what the number would be, and the construction would be 12 months, it would be, you do the math. We don't like to base our fees on a percentage of construction, right? Because that would incentivize a higher construction cost. We also don't like to be hourly like a lawyer, because you never know where it's going to end. You just have no visibility to the bottom line. So we think this method kind of works best for everybody involved. And as a benchmark, depending on the project size and complexity, it's usually 1 to 3% of construction for the construction phase fee. That's what we try to benchmark construction fees to construction costs. Pre-construction with nonprofit organizations can be all over the place.
So are the contractors, or what your experience is with the contractors or construction companies, are they recommended by the architect, or are they recommended by the construction management company or the entity?
All the above. Yeah.
Because we've been through 2 major expansions over the years, and we have the experience of having the architect recommend the contractor. First time we went with it, and I wasn't particularly happy. And the second time we used our own, research and determination.
Take everyone's feedback.
But it happens in multiple different ways.
Who's the lead on the Irwin's project?
That'd be me when I was much younger.
You did a great job.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, tremendous feedback. Susan Burge made a point of reaching out. Yeah.
That was a great team. I mean, let's just be honest, they're a great client to work for. Working with Susan and a woman whose name I'm forgetting on the furniture was fantastic. Two Susans, right.
See the Susan.
Susan, oh God, I don't know, I see you.
Oh, it's okay.
I just, she's a designer, and she has interior design background.
Working to integrate the food service planning with issues of young women's health and eating was incredibly sophisticated. Like the way they took students' feedback. At one point in time, they wanted to have gardens, and the head of school at that time said, "Okay, we'll bring the students in," and she said, "Okay, who's going to pick the tomatoes in August? Who's going to be, who's going to do, take care of the chicken during the summer? Are you going to take the chickens home?" And the kids were like, maybe we won't do farm to table, but it was really a good process. It was a really good process.
We had a good partner at BTJ too. The former partner who's now retired, Randy.
But my wife went there, so I'm a little biased. Great. What other questions do you have for us?
You answered most of what I was thinking. So thank you. Thanks for making the time to come out here. Of course.
My pleasure.
One of the things that we didn't really touch upon are the intangibles, and being on this side of the table with the owner coming from different backgrounds, architecture, contractor backgrounds. A lot of what we do is not necessarily kind of the prescriptive, budget, schedule, scope. It's those intangibles of how does a team want to work together? How do we get to that point, achieving consensus, working with different personalities? And what so far, and what we've heard consistently is that every project is unique, every client is unique. We don't do necessarily a formula approach with how to achieve those intangibles. And often we're kind of adjusting how we work to make it work for you. So we're, you know, we're here to help. We're here to help you. We're here to help everyone else, the architects, the contractors, you know, try to create a good environment for everyone.
One of the other firms that we've chatted with has kind of carved out each for themselves, working for not-for-profits, where they've also been collaborative on the grant writing part of the exercise and fundraising. I don't know if that's been something you guys have touched or been involved with or
So,
little bit.
anyway.
yeah, I mean, in terms of specifically with RACP, we've helped people put together RACP grant applications, because it's not rocket science. I mean, it's almost too easy, which is why everybody applies for them. But in terms of writing other grants to foundation or identifying those sources, that's not within our expertise. Or, you know, there's other sources of government funding through DCED or whatever those things might be, and that's sort of been outside our experience. We're more on like the spend money side. So I mean, like, this would be a good NEH project, and I mean, you know, when we did
What's NEH?
National Endowment for Humanities,
Yeah.
especially if there's any kind of historic preservation, they gave money to the Christ Church steeple project, and maybe NEA. I don't know how active the NEA is anymore. So, but anyway, you can see it's kind of outside
Sure.
my experience. So.
Not surprised.
We're more on the spend money side, and so we do know a good number of consultants who help do grant writing, fundraising. On the financing side, we've got some great nonprofit financing partners that we work with. So we would, you know, like anything, kind of set up a similar process where you get to interview a couple of different candidates, kind of soft RFPs, either for any of those kind of specialties before you bring them on board.
Have you ever worked with Fairmount Ventures?
So Fairmount Ventures would be one.
Don Clatterman.
Don,
He used to be
yeah.
there, but he's
I think he's kind of retired.
What about the nonprofit finance fund? Is that what it's called anymore? It's their name changed.
Yeah, they're still around. I don't know if Nancy Bird is still there. I mean,
I
the
think she retired.
the joke on the street was they were going to try to talk people out of doing projects, like they're, you know, because a lot of nonprofits launch into these things, and then all of a sudden this thing.
You're like, you're being a little too ambitious, and you know, and I've met with her many times.
Yeah. She's great.
God help.
Don't tell me what I can't do.
Or Callow Hill, which was a spin-off of eConsole Solutions. You know, eConsole, they might help you pursue some of the government stuff. And then there's a sole proprietor, Paul Marcus, that we worked with on
Impact.
the Impact, 23rd Street Armory, a couple of other things, and we can put you in touch with him. But he's more.
Where's he? Where's he?
Philly.
Yeah,
He's a former list guy, but he's really about like tax credits.
Yeah, we had,
government stuff.
I think we had like 8 or 9, maybe more different either tax credits, funding sources, all like that he pulled together for this massive project.
It was horrible.
A lot of paperwork stuff, but he
Low income housing tax credits, new market tax credits,
historic.
right? Tax credits, RACP, PHFA, DCED, city money,
Yeah.
and something else.
Yeah. So
Can you get tax credits in the suburbs? Like you can't do that in
market tax credits.
I don't know about new market or low. I mean, you could get
No,
low income.
he's not here.
no, but he's more, he knows where to go
We'll do it.
to you know, to explore these different avenues.
Yeah.
I don't think.
And they all CUS or?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, we can connect you.
Great.
Yeah.
We can connect you.
So we're still in the process of trying to figure out what road we're gonna go. Are we gonna go get like a Fairmount Ventures and spend a lot of money versus, you know, someone smaller, a small boutique firm or an individual who's doing it, semi-retired, and, you know, at least get us off the ground and start.
For financing, definitely Sandy Baxter at Cal Health. She's sharp. Sorry.
Sandy Baxter.
I'll do intros if you guys do.
Yeah, and also some of this money comes with conditions. I mean, make sure that we don't take on any money that pigeonholes our design
And that's
execution.
just like when Impact, that was like one of the part of the process. All these different people want different things. We're building like huge tracking spreadsheets to make sure there's no conflicts or
Yeah,
like.
that's what one of our concerns is make sure we don't come with too many
Yeah.
limitations.
Because even if
conditions.
you use a fundraising firm, like if they're a firm, like they don't do the fundraising, you know, they just train you or guide you.
Yes.
Yeah,
And you have to have your own people are the ones that are doing the work.
so I'll help you do
So
the
don't come school
research.
boards, you'll see just how evident that is.
Yeah,
It's always, we'll come and tell you what to do, now you go do it.
yeah. Right.
And they can like help you pinpoint the ask, so you're not
Mhm.
asking for too much or too little. They have got the spy software, it's amazing.
Oh, yeah, and do the
Right.
prospect research and all that.
So my question for you is about proposal.
Mhm.
Do you want us to, I don't want to be presumptuous, do you want us to put a proposal together?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, just fit,
Please do.
Um,
put some things in black and white, so we can really.
Well, it'll be in full color, but put the, all the marketing stuff too. Yeah. And then we're working on a couple other things, so a week or so, is that okay? Or do you need it by a certain date? Is there
That's fine.
a board meeting we're trying to hit?
No, we're fine.
Okay.
That sounds great.
Well, thank you very much, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Great to meet you as well.
Great to meet you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Where were you before this? So you've been here a year?
Actually,
I've been here a year, I was in alarm design and so like,
Oh, perfect. Great.
yeah,
But,
nice meeting you.
Nice
Very
meeting
nice
you.
meeting you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Good, good. You brought this area too?
No, I grew up in Jersey, but moved out here with my wife's family has, you know. So.
Great. Nice
Thank you.
meeting
Nice to meet
Appreciate
you.
it. Sorry you took a detour.
I took a tour. Yeah.
I was off.
It's a beautiful day out.
I need
No
your
problem. Walking the block.
Walk around Wayne. Walk on the trail.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Charlie. Appreciate
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Yep. I think John was coming. John
That's
Coleman?
sweet.
Yeah, that's what we had.
Yeah.
So we got a few minutes if anybody wants to. Reaction or whatever.
Yeah, they're, they have a great reputation, obviously qualified. So, I mean, the only thing I think distinguishes one from the other to the extent that it's important, well, it's important to the extent that it gives them any sort of leg up in the exercise is, you know, the grant writing part of it, but I'm not that worried about that because I think going to having options outside of the committed relationships to give you optionality and give you alternatives and having more than one resource is good.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, the capable and qualified you relationship, which is good. We know the work that they've done in our own
Yeah.
worlds, you know,
community.
Irwins and things of that nature. I think they'd be as good a choice as any.
So I think there's, for me, there's, I think I'd be happy to work with either of them. I don't know, obviously, these two people sitting next to me, D3, you know, the partners are gonna be doing the project.
Yeah.
You know, for better or worse,
Yeah.
you know, if that's good or not. I think Charlie obviously would step in if they're needed, so I don't know their sophistication. I think getting our best guess on how sophisticated this build is will help, because I think these guys probably have the experience and the knowledge and stuff to be able to pull a lot off. That's the difference. I mean, but they'll probably be more expensive than D3. I'm just guessing, just based on their reputation and stuff, but you
Yeah,
know,
I'd be interested to see the proposals.
I mean, they say 1 to 3%, you know, they're talking $100,000, you know, somewhere.
I have no doubt to their ability to execute and do it in a very
200.
in a very positive way. So to me, it comes down to looking at proposals when we get them in and comparing the two
Yeah.
proposals
Have
and
we
then.
gotten some from D3? yet?
We did, yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
They're 90.
I printed it out. Do you want to see it?
No, that's okay. It's on Trello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I so I think, you know, it's 90 something.
935, I think. is what I recall.
Yeah, so I mean, if you did the high side of his, I mean, if we said the construction, you know, is $5 million, it just is a round number, you know, 1 to 3% is similar ballpark. I mean, it depends.
You know, the question comes, they both come in, they both come in at basically the same number, then you're, you know, you're picking a side.
Yeah, and
They're
Yeah,
they're
I mean-
gonna come in close to the same number is my guess at the end of the day. I mean, close enough that it's not just, one's not gonna be distinguished from the other,
Mhm.
in, you know, to any significant magnitude.
I will say, I mean, they got into the process at probably a little more than D3 in terms of knee deep, and a little bit in the weeds, but at least you got a sense of what this project's gonna be
Yeah.
like.
Right.
You know, and your comfort level of it. Well, we'll see it.
Who do we have next?
John Culver's next from VMA.
Okay. What time does he do?
9,000.
He's due now.
So approximately 10 grand a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so they may be a little more,
There you go.
because this could be a 24-month process.
And what do they say when they do define their work, scope of work? What do they say about the grant writing?
That is,
Look this upside down.
determine the viability of supplemental funding sources, such as RACP. Work with board to further seek and help secure project funding. Assist in incorporating any requirements of those sources. Assist board with implementation and administrative requirements of any funding programs. Assist in securing municipal approvals. So it's
You know, we did some of these state grants. We didn't do the RACP because they weren't, wasn't, formulated at that time, but they're pretty straightforward types of grants.
Yeah, as I said, to the
They're-
extent that gives them an advantage, I don't know. I'm not sure how much of an advantage you get working with them as it would be someone else just directing us to people saying, okay, call these three.
So
Right,
for
right.
example, we got funding from the DEP, and, we didn't know how to write a grant for the DEP.
Yeah.
So Radnor Township actually helped us do that.
Did
and
they?
Put us in touch with an engineer, and the engineer wrote the whole grant for us.
Hmm.
Something like that is like.
Yeah.
Amazing,
Sure.
but, in terms of a regular state grant that you go online and you just,
yeah, so the NEA grant looks pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I
too.
mean, you need, the technical information, some of it, but, it's not like that DEP grant that, I would have needed to, all this engineering information, things like that.
What was the size of the grant, if you don't mind me asking?
For what?
You said it,
The DEP?
Yeah.
It's like 100,000.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it was really helpful and. Township was
Hey,
great.
Todd,
Yeah,
did you put Brian Communications proposal on Trello?
ooh,
That's all
let me
right.
check.
I
Hold
can
on, let
figure
me
out a
look.
way to do it.
No, just give it to Rich, he'll do it. He's the master of Trello.
Okay, I'll forward it to you, it's electronic.
Yeah.
But it's, you know where it is, it's sort
You
of.
get through?
Down the hall?
Down, if you just park in the back or you come in the side.
Today I came in the side,
Okay,
but
yeah, so you have to go down,
Yeah.
sort of back towards the
All right,
main front
great.
piece. Yeah, so he sent a proposal,
Who sent it?
Brian Tierney from Brian.
Oh, he did?
Communications.
Okay.
And so I'll put that on there. It's,
So how does that work? What did they do?
well, they would take care of all the communications, PR, probably would help with fundraising. That's why I'm not
Right.
too concerned about what D3 may offer with fundraising, because
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have a variety of hands in the till that probably can help us. That
Yes.
wouldn't be necessarily the determining factor for
I
me.
agree.
He's, he wants to be personally involved. He's excited about it because he grew up here and all that.
Sure.
I know how much he has on his plate, so I don't know how, he may be sincere in saying that, how, what comes out in the wash.
Mhm.
I have met his sort of second in command. I guess he'd be there. Ryan's like a lawyer when it comes to hourly, like $8.50.
I'm sure, yeah.
So, but I think there's I already sent him an email saying, I assume we can have a conversation about this.
Right.
What is it? Do you remember his second in command, what his name is?
Ed, I can come up with it. Been around a long time. I mean, he's sort of like Packer Frondorf. We're getting sort of an A-team professional organization there. And I think it's just making a decision of how, where it's worth cutting corners financially and where it's not.
Mhm.
I think owner's rep standpoint, although it looks like they're gonna be comparable, I mean, it's an expense I think we have to have, and going with the person who's sophisticated to do it's fine.
And we never did that, it was recommended and, way back that we actually interviewed them in front of at the time. But, I thought, oh, it's gonna cost so much more money to have that done, but then, of course, it took all of our time. And we're not experienced, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, and even with some experience between
all of you
Wayne,
guys.
myself, even Sydney, who's obviously involved in restaurant, all the construction goes on there. It comes down to a time.
Yeah,
commitment.
it's a lot
I
of
mean, I
time.
heard him when he went through the types of meetings, this and that. And I think of just doing it on Agnes Irwin as the representative for Agnes Irwin. I mean, I was there 3 to 4 days a week for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And so it's, yeah, I mean, they take some of that pressure off.
I just wonder about, because, if you talk to an architect about a construction management firm, of course, they probably don't like them because they want to be the ones making those decisions, you know what I mean? So, but it may be more.
Hey there, how are you?
More
All right.
accepted.
Come on in, Clover. Hey, John, Rory, Rory, pleasure to meet you. How are you?
Hi, I'm Nancy Campbell.
Nancy.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hey, John, Rich Mattis.
Rich, nice to meet you.
But I
Nice to
guess
meet
it
you as
just,
well.
it probably is more accepted now than it used to.
I think so.
Yeah,
You can even ask that question, John.
yeah, I will.
Is there a particular hot seat?
You know what? Why don't you come sit right here just so the camera catches you? I think it'd be sort of a corner here.
Hello.
Hi there.
John Clover.
Lauren.
Lauren, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And we've got one more person who was using the facilities. Can we get you a water? There's actually cold
yeah,
water right
yes,
there.
I'll
If you
grab
wanna
one
grab
if
that or coffee.
The need arises.
Thank you.
Rich, please take this in the spirit in which it was given. You're the one who looked like food on the Griffin Cafe. When I walked in, I was like,
Right, that's the guy.
that's the guy. We all have our
Gotta play the
uniforms.
part.
Yeah.
So as I said, we're waiting for one person, John. We have Todd Scott, who you probably have interacted with on the phone. We had Sydney, but it looks like we lost Sydney. So, but we have, most of the board here.
Great.
Yeah. I think
And,
opening just totally.
I'll wait till Drake gets here.
Great.
We can do some quick intros for people you haven't necessarily met. You find us okay here?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I live in Marple Township, so not that far away. I'm familiar with the area.
So I have a just sort of side question on any of this. You guys did the, I don't know, I'm not sure what they call it, at Pennington School. was it
The
a
Kenyon,
performance? Yeah,
Pennington was the Kenyon Center.
center. It had some
Yes.
classrooms. It had a little small.
Like a little
arts
forum
area.
type space
Yeah.
too, where, they
Okay.
do like small
Who's,
presentations.
was that you or someone else? Somebody
It
else?
was someone else in my
Okay.
firm who did that.
I just had some experience. My son went to Pennington and I knew
great.
you guys had done it and I was just curious.
Yeah, we
Making
did,
sure that
we
was the
did that
case.
project, and then we also did the relocation and restoration of the Wesley House.
Yes,
That to make room for that,
right.
basically, and then some renovation in the library space, and then the
Who-
admissions area.
And who did the work?
Adam Spickle was the contractor for a lot of that work.
Okay.
That's in the Bucks County area.
They're in Bucks
Yeah,
County.
I think my niece went there.
Oh, yeah, Pennington's actually in New Jersey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right,
but not
it's
that
right
far
over
from
the-
the, yeah, right over the bridge, exactly.
Cute little town, but
yeah.
there's not much sort of a couple of intersections
Yeah,
that's there, but it.
There's not
It's a cute
quite,
little town.
quite that defined town.
Yeah.
like-
Yeah,
the one
and
we
it's
have
funny that
here.
one side of Pennington School has more of sort of an old classic look you might see of a small town. And then back on the other side, it's, typical Jersey, strip mall.
Yeah.
So what was interesting with that project is, as we were starting the early designs, the town actually created a historic district.
Mhm.
And when they defined the historic district, they kind of had this strip and then it swooped down to grab
Oh,
the
okay.
school.
Is that right?
So like when we were doing the relocation, we had to go through the historical commission and get their approval for that.
Many ways, it's sort of almost like the main line in that there's so many good schools in a very small area, Princeton Day School, Lawrenceville, Pennington,
George School.
yeah, all in sort of this,
Yeah.
this area. It's,
Yeah, well, I jokingly have told people that like in this area here, you could walk from campus to campus and not set foot on private property between them.
I
You
know.
It's
Yeah.
remarkable.
well, I think,
Between the colleges and the private.
I
schools.
think we're very lucky, if you have a student here, because we've got very good public schools too, highly regarded public schools, and learning different schools, and a
Yeah.
choice of learning different schools.
Yeah.
Woodland, Benchmark, AIM.
Wait,
Some parts of the
Yeah.
country,
Yeah.
you go to your public school and that's it, so.
Trail run.
Yeah, public school or homeschool,
There you go.
which I never got, I would never be able to homeschool my kid. That'd be the last thing, I want to be home with them, I'd kill my.
We've done work with a fair number of them too. We've been very fortunate in that regard.
That's good. Well, we appreciate you coming. I think, obviously you provide us with the initial schematic on it. And I think we thought it would be good to have you come here and maybe sort of expand the thinking about your process, timetable, perhaps if, we continue down the road and all those kinds of things. I'm Rory McNeil, I'm in real estate development and, part of the board and
Which, Griffin.
I'm Lauren Addis, I'm an art advisor, local gallery and frame store.
Nice to meet you.
Nancy Campbell, Wayne Arts Center.
Nice to meet you.
Wade McDevitt, also real estate development investment.
Thank you.
Live 2 miles from the property.
Yeah, and then I understand we had some previous interactions with you.
Been working
at
with
Harvard
you
School.
for a while, yes.
Yeah.
Several months now, yes.
And then Todd Scott, is on the phone,
Yes.
or Zoom, at least audio portion.
Yes.
So I don't know, Lauren, if you had a direction you wanted to go with.
Yeah, so I think just from speaking with Todd, going starting maybe with vision, timeline, cost for the main 3 objectives to try to walk through today and creatively hear your thoughts.
Okay, so this is a lot of extemporaneous thought here, so hoping that, I'll go, I will ramble, so please feel free to interrupt, redirect, things like that too. So I think what I'd like to start with when I talk about this is kind of what your vision is for it and the intent for the type of facility. Because the type of facility will have a lot of impact on sort of the direction it goes. And when I say type of facility, there are kind of 2 directions, broadly speaking, you can go. One is we want to get some seats in here. We want to open it up, get it back in the community, do it as quickly and efficiently as possible, and just kind of I'll call it a get her done job. The second way is we want to create a high quality community locale that has a certain quality to it in terms of the aesthetics and the acoustics and the presentation and things like that. And those have 2 very different levels of effort at our level, at the contractor level, and at your level too. So that fork really defines that answer.
Okay.
I would think that for something like this, because I know that Todd had reached out to Sam Scott over at the Bryn Mawr Film Institute, which was what my connection was to this.
Yeah.
He envisions, creating a premium film venue, recliner seats, good acoustics, basically creating a space that you can't get elsewhere. You're coming here for a reason, because Franklin, you can go just about anywhere to watch a movie or wait for it to come out on, a streaming service or whatever. So you want to create that community.
I think we
center.
want future-proof optionality. I think we want to create an environment and dimensions allow us to program accordingly. So film, live, music, whatever it may be, nothing pigeonholes us into one
Right.
thing, into one
Flexibility.
Flexibility.
Yeah.
And that crux between film and performing arts is, I mentioned that as the third kind of avenue, because that takes you in a very different direction too. With movies, you'll have that that great movie that comes through it, everyone wants to come see, and that you can have a 200+ seat venue that will sell out, and you'll have that sort of that density of attendance. But a lot of the time, you're attracting smaller crowds, and what you want to have is several smaller venues that give you the programming flexibility
Right.
to move things around. When we did the project at the Bryn Mawr Film Institute, we went from 2 screens to 4. That was one of the key things for them. It allowed them to bring in a bigger movie, knowing that they had to hold it for 6 weeks, but after week 3 or week 4, they could rotate it to a smaller screen.
Okay.
With the performing arts, I mean, that's very much about community and gathering. And you want then a certain amount of capacity as well. So the trick with the project that's going to serve both those purposes is to find that sweet spot in terms of size. The other thing is performing arts and movie theaters have kind of like, they're different in character. You know, when the movie theaters first came out, you know, and they were a lot being built in the 20s, they had those like vaudeville stages and all of that, but they really were almost, it was like a hedging of the bet when they built them. Performing arts venue and a movie theater have very different spatial needs as well too. So not impossible, but definitely a challenge to provide both of those aspects that we'd have to pay close attention to.
Well, I think too, like focusing on the community programming. So that's really what's driving our interest in leaning towards the ability for performing arts is connecting back to the community, which will interplay with film as well. But being able to have that flexibility. So looking at the seating, looking at capacities, like what is making sense, understanding where we need to be.
Right. So, you know, when I was talking with Sam Scott about this, you know, I came up with the 2 basic approaches. One with kind of the center entrance aisle that had the theater, the option 1.
But keep in mind, I'm telling you already know, Sam's looking at this through a very specific.
Exactly. And at that time, that was the lens that I was given.
Exactly.
But where I was going with that is like in this case here, this could very easily serve that dual purpose as option 1, because it cuts off that stage house area, but that also allows it to be used as a stage house area.
Right.
So in that sense, this would, I think, provide you that flexibility that you're looking for. You know, option 2 was really about trying to maximize capacity and take advantage of that stage house and being able to host like a small community event with a flat floored venue or partially flat floor that had like a small screening area or something attached to it too. So I think, to answer your question, that there is a way to do it here.
To coexist.
To coexist, but we have to go into it very much with that mindset so that we're designing for that purpose.
There's also a back of house element to this that has to be considered, especially if we have a more dynamic F&B program, you know, there's more back of house dependence that comes along with that, right?
Well, I mean, and you know, it's back house, but really it's in the front of the house.
The conception's in the front, so as far as
storage.
resources, access to, exactly.
And really where I think that comes play are the storefronts.
So we don't have
The
those,
upstairs landing.
Or the upstairs space.
Right.
which is where we don't have control of those storefronts.
Yeah.
We'd like to get them at some point, but we're not starting with them.
Yeah, so again, and you know, I keep mentioning the Bryn Mawr Film Institute just because there's such similarities here. You know, they had the 2 storefronts on either side.
Yeah.
They had they started with a long-term lease in one, and then they had freedom in the other. We created the coffee shop for them first, and they were. I've actually been talking to them about a year or so ago about possibly turning that into some additional front of house. But that ability to serve, you know, food and drink out of it is.
Builder?
There were a couple builders over times. The one who did the addition, the other 2 screens was WS Cumbie. I believe was one of the companies that was walked through earlier.
What's the other, excuse me, what was the other business, where they had a coffee shop, what was the other?
It was an eye store.
Oh.
With glasses and optician.
And they took that over.
They took that over when
And
the
what did
lease
they
expired.
create with that?
They basically created their
I couldn't
It
remember.
was additional offices and meeting space and like support space for the. for
Cafe
the
to the left.
institute.
Cafe is the left,
On
this
the
is the
right.
right, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Phasing.
Yeah, so basically that entire building now is to support the Film Institute. And I think ultimately what I'm hearing from you, that's where you're gonna wanna go.
Remember, the seats on this plan two, the one that has the private room in back. Not that
Yes.
plan yellow. What's the green, that may be the same. What's the capacity of the green theater?
It was listed at 162, but I think that was overly aggressive in the terms of the front row is probably it. Let's just euphemistically call it a very immersive experience in that front row.
Close.
Yeah,
So aggressively high occupancy.
yes, in that sense.
And was that considering our large seats, or was that
Yes.
just a standard theater?
This was,
seat?
this was based on recliner seats, with a 6 foot row to row spacing.
And for comparison, and I'm not asking you to put on the spot, if we went to something, a more typical movie seat, would we increase it by 40?
40%.
Well,
40, yeah.
40 seats,
No,
yeah, I
no,
don't know.
like, so your standard movie theater seat, about 21 inches to 24 inches, center line, no, armrest to armrest, center lines. And then front to back, 36 inches is tight, 42 is nice. The recliner seats, you're talking about 27 inches center line of the armrest, and then roughly 6 feet back to back. So it's a 40%.
You lose in a row.
Yeah, it's basically, it's a
Every
1 to
other row.
2 row ratio, basically.
Live theater is typically different seating.
Yes, I would not put a recliner in a live theater.
Yeah.
It's funny, if you watch people in movie theaters, they sit back like this. In live theater, you sit forward like this. It's a different experience, a different kind of seat. A standard seat can serve both movie and performing arts. I think performing arts, you can get by with slightly tighter seats. There's that sense of it being an event. People don't mind being kind of a little bit tighter, but it's roughly the same.
So maybe you look at one of the smaller screens, like the yellow theater room as the luxury seat theater. But you would only have like 20 seats, yeah, maybe not. That's like a living room.
So we have 80 or, oh no, 40.
Yeah, and the reason these two smaller theaters were set to 49 is it's a magic code number. Once I get above 49 seats, I have to provide two
Second
exits.
means egress.
Yeah, so I kept it to 49 for that.
And those have luxury seats too in here?
These were all
design?
based on the recliners.
So maybe we consider doing luxury seats in the small theaters and going traditional seat in the large theater. Yeah,
Or there may be some hybrid too.
Or some hybrid.
Something that we don't
And there's
know
a
about.
seat that other group that was competing for the site were using that they said was an alternative.
Was it the rocker seat, perhaps?
I think
It's kind of like a little more cushy and wide, like the recliner, but it just kind of like.
Isn't that what's in Bryn Mawr?
No, those were standard. The Bryn Mawr ones have a slightly higher back.
Okay.
Yes, you may. I should have thought of that.
But they're not.
Trying to think of where
I want to see you a little longer than I do.
Yeah, with the rockers, the one thing people, they've gotten better, but for a while there, they were noisy. Like
Noisy?
People would rock back, you'd hear the rock, and when it kind of hit it stopped. But
Perfected it.
they've gotten better with that.
I'll find this note. I took it during that meeting with them.
Well,
So if we went to the regular seating, still the spacious regular seating in the main theater, do we have an idea of how many that would
When you
accommodate?
say, so you're talking about a standard
More
seat,
standard.
not like the lounge chair seat, but just a standard theater seat.
Comfortable.
And is that the
Comfortable.
green or the
That's
yellow?
the green.
Oh.
And I would say, if you're thinking about it as sort of this mixed venue, I would be looking at the context of
numbers,
this
that
plan.
would be 40% would be, 230 or 240, so 50% more.
And actually, what's interesting, again, with live theater, you can get a lot closer to the stage.
Right.
So you get more seats that way.
Yeah.
So a venue that is 200 seats for a movie could be 240 or whatever. You pick up rows.
Can you have just flexible seating that moves in and out?
You can do what are called sleds, where you gang a couple seats together on something that gets attached to the floor. What's interesting is in a recent code, they And actually, I think you'd be okay in this case. They recently said you can't have loose seating in a theater space up to a certain capacity. And I think in this case, you would be fine. I think 300 seats was the magic number for that. Don't quote me, I haven't designed one to that, where I've had to focus on that. The trick is what you do with the seats. I mean, you don't want to like just put out folding chairs. Like these have to be seats that kind of feel part of the theater. So what these theaters will do that have this kind of flexibility is they'll have the ability to actually lower them into the floor. If you look at these performing arts venues, the orchestra pit is actually on a hydraulic lift. Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's not our budget.
Minor
That's not the
detail,
budget.
you know, minor-
We'll need to discuss it.
The theater at Kimmel is actually a fantastic example. That the entire floor of seating, they can lower it, push it under the stage, and then lift it up and have a completely flat floor for an event.
Hey, Kimmel.
The Perlman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the walls were also articulated for the change for acoustic.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You call the capacity of Winmar's largest screen?
Cheat sheet with me.
That's all right.
Um,
I'm just, again, trying to.
250.
We briefly tossed out the idea of balcony,
Mhm.
since we do have vertical space. Does that make sense?
Okay, so the balcony, a couple considerations there. I mean, one, yes, you can add capacity that way. One, now you have to put an elevator in. Because you've got, by code, you have to have patrons be able to access the main floor and 50% of your balconies. You now have your projector going up higher to get clearance over the balcony as well. Unless you do something where it's like in between the two and then your balcony's up too high. And it's just, it's a staffing issue too. Now you're kind of like, in essence, patrolling two areas. But yes, it's possible, but
Well, and it's,
there's a reason you don't see a lot of balconies in
some of these
theater.
designs, a little more challenging than not trying to put a balcony.
Yeah, and I've got to provide, 2 exits off the balcony and things like that too.
And what is the elevator capacity? Would you have to have several elevators?
No, because we put a stair in that it has a very public feel that would encourage people to use the stair. So the elevator is more of an elevator.
As long as there's one ADA code elevator.
Yeah.
Right, and the stairs, you lose seating because of the stairs, so.
The stairs, the elevator, all that. Yeah, I mean, you're taking a step backward to take 2 steps forward.
It's interesting, I think in my mind, I feel like the middle of the last century that you saw some of that. I'm thinking of the one that's the pharmacy downtown off Chestnut. It was a theater, it was changed.
Yeah,
the CVS.
Yeah,
CVS.
some of the older
Yeah.
centuries had balconies. but
Adeline.
I think there must have been a reason why you don't see them anymore because of all these
Yeah.
challenges.
I,
we're talking
the
about.
Bryn Mawr Film Institute, actually, there was a blueprint, there was a design for a balcony that they ended up not building.
Yeah. All the vertical
I get
elements
that.
take away a lot of square footage.
No, back in the 1920s, not so much. They were.
Right now, but I mean, all the
But now,
equipment-
yeah.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, but for that vertical space, could we use that for
Back of
food,
house.
beverage, that
But
kind
you-
of stuff?
Yes, and you could like put a dumbwaiter in or something
Right,
like
so we
that.
wouldn't need a full elevator.
Yeah, what we've found is that by the time you put a proper dumbwaiter, I mean, you put the little dumbwaiter, but the dumbwaiter then kind of capacity where you basically have like wheeled carts that you like want to wheel in,
And you're
bring
making an
down.
elevator,
You're doing an elevator
you're
basically.
putting a shaft anyway.
Yeah, the cost is not.
Wasn't there like an upper level that we saw that day?
Yes, with the
But-
memorable staircase.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
And that would be the only way to get up to that except for an elevator. So what would the
Stairs.
use, there would be no use for that.
For the
upper-
upstairs?
Or would,
I think we have
or would it be like
to-
staffing?
I mean,
Offices,
yeah,
food
from
and
a code
beverage.
perspective is how much we can do up there before we trigger the requirement to have ADA or have access to.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we could look into doing, because you have, the space flanking the concessions where the restrooms were. And, we need to have restrooms. And the good news is when you go to the recliner seats, you're actually decreasing your capacity, so you don't need quite as many toilets. It's like 2 or 3 per gender with this capacity. But one of the things you could also do is the code allows for restrooms to be one floor from the population that needs it. So if you did want to put some function on that second floor and put an elevator in, you could say have like an emergency restroom on the main floor, but put your main restrooms on, say, like a second floor, and put your food service and all that, and you have the elevator then, and so there are options.
Having the elevator provides the opportunity for us to do much more on the second floor that we otherwise can do. So open it up, the ability to use it for anything. Seating, restrooms, back of house, officing, everything, right?
Yeah, because like I didn't see like how you got to the second floor spaces above the retail and there's a spot
It's
behind it.
really, yeah,
It's a tight,
it's just
definitely
over
not codes
the
here.
lobby.
Yeah, I went up the one staircase over here that took us into
Mhm.
the new projection booth and then the old projection
Yeah.
booth.
So how much space for back of house, like the rack rooms and projection? Is that built within the theaters that are there, or it needs to be its own space?
Building off that, Todd
What's
just
in-
texted that he's asking about the basement.
Yeah, which I never saw, so
Okay.
I'd
probably just mechanics, probably because the slope is probably a small area for mechanicals, I would think.
yeah, that kind of like, we'll start with, oh, this basement's good, and then you start to go back and
Yeah.
start ducking.
Remind me, what's,
Those are the restrooms.
those are currently
Men's and
restrooms?
women's.
And there's also like a janitor's closet and the one of the old fountains is still
Yeah,
in the location over here.
so if that all goes up to the mezz,
Mhm.
then that could be the back of house incorporated into food and beverage. On the
This
main
looks
level.
small for a food and beverage service.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Can we see that
storage.
plan? Sorry.
And for the performing arts theater, how important is it to have open space in front for dancing? I know that was one of Todd's feedback points from when he visited.
For dancing.
theater, that
Um,
some of the
I
theaters
wasn't
found it
thinking
very
about
important.
dancing,
Yeah.
but
Sorry, Todd, I'm sorry to interrupt again. Todd just texted 360 is leaving. So the retail space on the right, on the left as you're looking from
okay.
the outside. So that's becoming a.
Wait, sorry, which side?
Oh,
Facing the building to the
Uh,
left, color be mine
Towards the
is,
street to
Yeah,
the
okay,
right.
right.
So that
Yeah.
spot is coming available. So that's
Yeah.
X.
Mhm.
And the nice thing about that too.
More
is that
rent,
if
but-
you- Well, but if you can use that as as sort of your food and service
F&B.
venue, then you could also have some off hours operations too. Not a coffee house.
And alcohol. And
Yeah.
that's very nice for a little bar. Just a little separation.
Private events, yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
One of
a lot.
the tricky things with these theaters that you don't think about when you're just looking at plans is that the retail spaces are flat floor and your vestibule space is sloped.
Mhm.
So, your floors don't match up. It's just something you gotta work around.
so transition has to happen towards the front where they're graded.
Or you end up with some
Or
steps somewhere to get in there. Because the
Your code, you'll
temptation,
take- You can go outside and use the ramp up, so you're okay from a code perspective. As far as transition into the out of the space,
yes,
because you can access from the
yeah,
front.
you could. The other thing is if you cleverly locate the elevator, you could use the elevator, it's like, it was like right in that location there. Now all of a sudden it could serve a couple different purposes. So,
Once we get into an elevator, we might have a conversation with Pages.
Contributing.
I mean, if it ever, we were ever go away and he was doing
Yeah, yeah.
something else, I don't know, it's an expense.
125 to 175
Yeah.
probably here.
And
Yeah.
Fire
I'm
rate.
seeing
there's
it close to
there's only a
200.
few players in the game that do
Depends
it.
if it's front, back, and number of stops. And there are a lot of directions this could go.
Sure.
So it's a part again of sort of defining your priorities and then designing to those priorities.
Give us a sense of the timing on all this. I mean, obviously, we're talking 30,000 foot at this point,
Yeah.
but moving forward, obviously some design meeting, that kind of stuff moving forward.
I mean,
And the process and
Yeah.
steps.
I would say that sort of the process from going from design to sort of having it ready for construction is in the 12 to 18-month range. Depends how quickly decisions get made, how quickly we settle on program, things like that. Budget always comes into play, because there's kind of 3 steps in the way. There's a programming and schematic design. Sometimes you can split them into 2 parts, sometimes you combine them. That can take 3 to 4 months. Depends on how quickly you just kind of hit on your program. And then you want to get a budget. And then the budget comes back and you go, oh, that budget's great. You go, oh my God, it costs that much. And then you've got to, spend a month or 2 to kind of wiggle it around and decide what your priorities are. Can we raise this? Can we not raise it? Do we fundraising? Often projects will actually take a hiatus at that point in the process to really work on the financing and the fundraising and socializing the project and things like that too. But then once you kind of set on your general scope and budget in that schematic phase, then you go into design development where you start to make it a little more real. You kind of lock in the plan and the shape of the spaces and the scope. And then you'll usually do another cost estimate to make sure you're still on track. And usually at that point, especially if you're working with like a contractor or something, like, oh, we weren't picturing that. Oh, we weren't picturing that. And the cost kind of goes up a little bit. And then once you're kind of set on your budget there, then you go into the full construction documents. And in the meantime, you're dealing with talking with the township, making sure that, they don't have any issues with the code. Parking is something that could be an issue. It's fascinating. Parking is something that the township will either say it's not a problem, it's been a movie theater, and we want this project to work, and they will find a way. Or they will say, oh my God, we were so happy when the movie theater closed, and they will use parking to stop the project. I mean, I think it's actually probably one of your key steps at this point is to get the temperature of the township and find out if they'll support it or not.
How long does the design development phase usually take?
That's 3 to 4 months.
3 to
again.
4 months.
Yeah. And then the construction documents, 4 to 6. 4 to 6.
So what's the, unless I missed it, I remember, this isn't structural, is it?
There are a couple columns that define the proscenium opening.
Okay, so
I don't know
they're
if they're carrying roof load or just the internal load.
Okay.
Often they would carry a roof load because the roof will sometimes change plane.
let's assume we have to span that and take out columns for that purpose. What's to keep us from sliding everything down, absorbing this room into this and picking up that space in front and making a more dynamic lobby experience?
You do not have a performing arts space then. Because you need a stage.
Well,
or a
so,
area.
yeah, I think, it defines what our performing arts are.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean play.
You're saying that's
versus acoustic guitar.
I'm picturing this as the performing
That's a
arts
performing arts center.
zone. And the reality is it's still limited as performing arts. I mean, performing arts, you've got people. So where are they coming from? Typically you'll have a whole
Off-stage,
operations.
backstage.
You'll have the backstage, you have a crossover because you need to be get the stage left to stage right without people seeing you. And you don't have to have that. You can have an open concept. Are there sets that need to get accounted for? How are they getting in and out and things like that too?
Why can't one of these be adaptable to be a performing arts other than seating? Is there another reason that they can't be adaptable?
When you say adaptable for performing arts, what kind of performing arts are you picturing?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, see, I think that's, for me, it comes down to what do we want to drive? I mean, are we gonna have all these things driving theater versus the other way around? I have to admit, I never thought of like full stage, like Harridan High coming in and saying, we want to rent your thing out. to do
I
performing
know.
arts. Because, once you get into that kind of theater performance, there's so much, as you said, sets, costumes, I mean.
So you're not thinking like theater.
Guitarists.
I think it's more,
TED Talks,
more that
musical
we don't have the
talk.
capacity
That
to
you
do
don't
this.
need,
The format. We also have the capacity to do
children's
this.
series,
Or you're
even if
thinking
it's a
more
small
music.
children.
More music
Like, what's to
related.
keep us from having a stage
Small,
here?
like small music.
That this
Yeah.
becomes
Yeah,
other than
even like
seating
little
again,
children
Not a
performance, you just
the
don't
performing
need
arts
the full
venue
group.
as well.
Yeah.
And I
You could,
hate to drive
so you
our
could have this like
design
slope, you
thinking,
could,
oh,
sorry, just make sure everyone's,
Yeah.
you could have this area, like the seating area sloped down to a flat floor. You can
Right.
just use the flat floor as a performance space. Sight lines are not great. In that case, there's a reason stages are usually elevated,
Mhm.
because if you think about the nature of the slope on the floor, you can't slope it like this, it's sloped like this, and now you're kind of looking through people's heads to see what's happening at the floor level. You know, at the movie theater and the stage is about 3 feet up from the floor level, so now all of a sudden you're looking, because you want to look over people's heads, not through them.
So if you elevated your screen
And
to accommodate the stage, do you maintain appropriate sight line for a theater? If the stage is, if the screen is elevated to
You can.
support the stage height?
You can. When we did our project at the county theater, we built a small stage there. It wasn't deep, I want to say 8 to 10 feet. It was more so that they could invite speakers to come. You know, and we're going to talk about our film, and so they'd set up a couple directors' chairs there. You've got to get appropriate lighting in there then too. You know, it's just another.
You also could have a collapsing stage.
You can. You have to provide accessibility to that stage. You know, if it's collapsible, you've now got a ramp that you need to accommodate. Again, the county, you know, what we did there, and one of the things Sam Scott and I were talking about after I sent this was 14 is my magic number in terms of seats in a row between aisles. But what we're talking about is putting just aisles right down the side and getting more of like a continental seating in the middle. And if you do that, what you can actually do is have an aisle, and then you have a walkway that stays level that takes you right to the stage right next to it too. So there are ways to address it.
What was, once you got to construction documents and you put a shovel in the ground, what was Bryn Mawr Film Institute's construction? 12 months?
I'm gonna
15?
say possibly 16 months. That was a couple of years ago. So I don't quite remember. But the other thing with.
That was a full fit out though at that point?
Well,
Was
it
that sort of
was,
original?
they had the renovation of the old, and then they were building an addition, so they had all the foundation and exterior envelope and all that. So with just renovation, that could they'll go a little faster. My general rule of thumb is from, let's start the project to let's have an event in our completed project. I always start with 3 years as a rough starting point.
Okay. And what would be your sense of your fees, you know, the VMA's fees, if that were the case? Timeframe we've been talking about, 1 to 3 years.
I mean, general rule of thumb, when you're doing initial budgeting, is budget 10 to 12% design fees. Take your construction cost and apply 10 to 12%, and it depends on the complexity of it and things like that. And if I have to bring in a civil engineer or not, and other variables.
And did you, Cumbie did the initial work, did they do then the follow-up work at Bryn Mawr Film Institute, or?
Cumbie did the last project.
The last part?
Yeah.
You don't recall who did the primary initial?
Phase 2, so there was there were 5 phases. Phase 1, which
So help
was.
us today. Let's avoid that. I'm on board with it. Unless we buy the building.
Yeah.
You get it, that's a whole day.
So phase 1, which is basically like a deep clean, get the coffee shop open, renovate the lobby, do some utility work. That was a local contractor. Trying to remember. I don't remember who that was. Phase 2, which sort of did the whole front of the building and created offices for them all. I think that was E. Allen Reeves, who's no longer in business. And then phases 3 and 4, which was renovating the skylight and lay light. That was also Reeves.
You may have said this, do you remember the budget, total budget?
Total, I don't have, but the phase 5 project was 3.3 million completed in 2013.
And remind me, what was in that phase?
Phase 5 was 2 new theaters, renovating the 2 existing theaters,
renovating 2 existing and building 2 new theaters. And what size were those 2 theaters?
The new
Seating
ones,
wise.
the new ones were around 150 seats.
Gotcha.
So Bryn Mawr Film Institute is roughly 800 seats.
Right.
And I took the time roughly escalating it. That Bryn Mawr Phase 5 project was, in today's dollars, probably $500 a square foot.
What is the square footage of Bryn Mawr Film Institute?
The theater spaces and their main lobby space is roughly 13,000 square feet. That does not include the arcade, the office spaces, or like any of that front half.
I don't think we're quite there.
No, we are, I'll tell you what we are.
I've got you.
We're 15,500, correct?
We're 15,106.
And that 15,000 is, I think,
Not,
just the
not
area of
including
the black.
0.360.
Sorry, what's that, Don?
Not including 0.360.
Yeah. No, it's just the current theater. That's how the landlord is describing it.
You know, one of the other things that I think I mentioned the time we were walking through is, you know, part of the expense for you is, yes, it's a theater, great, but you're probably gonna end up redoing the floors to get the raking the way you want and things like that too. So I mean, you're basically dealing with a shell.
Are there, outside of Cumby, others that you, on the top of your head, that have this type of experience in movie theater, performing arts?
I mean, Adam Spickle did the county theater with
Okay.
us. We did a handful of other theater projects with the Allen Reeves, so unfortunately, that's not an option.
Yeah, I think he honors did GA's performing arts.
Didn't he do Agnes Irwin? Didn't Reeves, wasn't he one of the contractors?
Eon has done a lot of work at Georgetown Academy over the years.
Okay.
If they did something, I mean, that last project that Agnes Irwin did, which was 2012 and 13, that was about when they were. So,
Going down.
Yeah, we didn't even bring
I
them
think
in,
they might have been the one before.
but it could be, but I don't know.
Earlier.
It would have been the Science Center,
Mhm.
which was maybe about 20 years ago.
And some of the others that work in this area, like Warfel and Wolson, maybe.
That was the one I was trying to.
Pancoast and Clifford located in Westchester. I don't know that they've done a theater per se, but I know they've done hospitality and I've done other projects with them and I find them great people to work with.
And I assume, thinking about the other typical bigger players, IMC and Tech, and the muscle and the knowledge to get it done.
Well, and part of it's gonna boil down to, you know, your funding sources. If you're pursuing a RACP grant, is often what it comes down to, because RACP, you've got to go through prevailing wage and there's a lot of paperwork and all of that. So you want a contractor who can help support that effort.
Yep. Sure. Not gonna be my handyman doing it.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, we do a lot of big construction projects and we're used to paperwork and all that. We don't do RACP paperwork. I mean, we say, what do you need from us? And we'll give you that, but like the handling, the filing and all of that. I mean, although, you know, I say that now, I've got a woman in our office who I think has some experience going through that. She probably could help with that.
Well, we certainly want to take advantage of any opportunities that are out there to get public money. So
This kind of project is basically what RACP was created for.
yeah. Do we know, this is not, there's no historical, I think I've asked this multiple times, historical designation on this building or anything?
Has not been registered.
That's why I didn't look it up, so I'll take your word for it, but.
According to Steve, it has not been.
Yeah.
We've not confirmed that. But
I was told once that something was not historic, that turned out to be historic, and boy, was that a fun conversation to have with the client.
you want to do, you can't.
There's some cool things in there that are also being covered right now, and I think I would love to see to be able to sort of restore a lot. of
Totally
that
agree.
Again, so it creates that unique environment that you're not walking into a multiplex with the same carpet and, that kind of stuff.
We had those conversations at Bryn Mawr Film Institute, and budget realities dictate otherwise in that case. So we spent money restoring the entry so that when you first walk in, you've got that two-story arcaded
Yeah.
area, like you get that sense of, oh, I'm here. And then we kind of had elements we kind of picked out and tried to retain. But just talk about the acoustics in the space too. These 1920s theaters used decorative plaster work, very hard reflective surface, no sound absorption. So you need to do something different from a performance perspective.
I was mostly thinking about the walk-in as opposed to the theater itself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, financial realities.
That's the right place to put the
Financial
thought,
realities
yeah.
of it, along with the construction.
Do you do like the interior design like as well, or is that something where we would hire a designer to pick out fabrics?
Now, we have an interior design
Yes, do that.
group as well. Yeah, we can do it in-house.
The acoustic is all in-house as well?
Well, we will hire an acoustician.
Okay.
Who basically what they do is we'll say, okay, this is what we're trying to achieve, this kind of performance space, whatever, and then they'll basically help us tune the space in terms of sound absorption, sound reflection, separation between theaters. Separation between theaters is huge. I mean, there's a whole art of design of how to separate movie theaters.
That's come up as a concern for the theater that Todd just went and met with this weekend. That was one of their learnings, especially when they had live next to cinema and the music.
Yeah.
They had live music
I mean,
performances.
County Theater, they had two existing theaters and we ended up tearing down the wall between those two theaters.
Where is that
And
located?
Doylestown.
You work with Metropolitan in any of that work, the audio and stuff?
Yeah, that was, did work with Felicia on the County Theater.
I think it's one of the ones in the portfolio of the other group we were chatting with.
Right, it's part of Renew.
Renew.
What, Metropolitan?
No, Renew Theaters.
County.
Yeah.
County Theater.
So that was John Toner you were talking, or was it Chris?
Chris.
Yeah. John's pretty much retired. Yeah, so that's who we worked with on the County Theater. They also have the Ambler, Princeton Garden, and yeah, drawing of lines at Phoenix, Ambler County, Princeton Garden. I'm forgetting the fourth one.
Not the Colonial one.
No, it was on St. Jeff Day. It was.
And how long ago was County that done?
That opened up 3 years ago.
Highway,
The Highway. Yeah.
County, Ambler, and Princeton Garden.
Renewed it, yeah.
It's Jenkintown.
Yeah, County Theater used, a standard seating model. They wanted the capacity.
Chris Collier and Lauren Nannini.
I don't know.
Lauren was development director
Okay.
for County Theater.
Yes, I think it'll be an interesting conversation to try to put all this together in a basket to figure out where our sweet spot is in terms of types of events we don't want to do, that we want to do in addition to the film. Seats and trying to, balance getting as much people in for the Mission Impossibles, if that comes along our way, but I do see something about having seats that are different from just the standard in some theaters and so.
One thing that Jay had brought up was the possibility of having gaming events, not e-gaming, but like people watching e-games. And would that involve other considerations?
That's what that room was potentially, had that multi-purpose
I
potential.
think he was also talking about.
I actually don't think
above,
that
too.
would be a good shape for that.
No,
No.
I don't know what shape works. I don't know what it looks like.
You want a more, I haven't designed one, but from what I've seen, you want probably more like this shape.
More square.
Yeah, more square. You want closer.
He was thinking upstairs.
So he was talking about
Upstairs,
upstairs, I think,
okay.
but I don't know
Where?
what and where that would
I
entail.
don't know either.
Obviously up in the front.
Well, we said we were able to talk to Stephen Williams, have all the office space up here. I think is what he was thinking. And we really get control of everything.
the entire
was it?
building.
Was he thinking people go and play games or
Both,
watch games?
Both. I think he had a saying both.
Okay.
People go to
That's
watch
not-
other people play.
That's not
games.
my
Yes,
world.
which is my world very well.
Tell you
I
what,
both have
what's-
14-year-old
what's
sons, so I think
interesting,
it's
the ones-
very topical.
The ones that I've
You're all
seen
there.
tended to be more of a stadium, like a tiered seating.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure why that kind of was hit upon as the technique, but I think it allows it to be a more interactive experience. For sure.
But I guess flexibility is what we really hope to achieve at the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah, and flexibility is sometimes runs counter to, the
Best practice.
Specifics.
yeah, the specifics. Like I said, the performing arts and movie theater are two different. One's going to win in terms of what the design is for. Right. It's an unfortunate reality, but
Or otherwise you're compromising with both.
yeah. Well, I mean, we all probably went to schools that had
It's the-
cafetoriums, right?
Yeah, it's the vet stadium of sports facilities.
Right.
Yeah, or gone to vet stadium and
And, assuming we off and running tomorrow kind of thing, VMA has the capacity to do the work.
we got staff of about 40 people.
Yeah.
This is, 2 to 3 FTEs.
Anybody else have any?
No, that's great.
That's it.
This is
Todd,
a-
is there
This is a remarkable undertaking you're embarking on here.
There seems to be a lot of enthusiasm in the community. And, even to the level of the township and business
That's good.
owners. Thankfully, have two in front of us sitting around the table as well, that we think will add a lot to the community itself.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that Bryn Mawr is much better for having the Film Institute in its current state.
Yeah.
And when it reopened, I don't know if you know the history behind sort of how the Film Institute was born, but the Philly Sports Club, or like a gym, was basically trying to buy the space and move in. And a group rose up to oppose it. And it's kind of like the dog that caught the car. And they're like, okay, we stopped them, now what? and Julia, a good friend, kind of formed the institute and ran with it from there. It was a remarkable, just tour de force of personality, making that happen. And, I think you guys seem to all have your heads in the right place for making
Well,
this
yeah, I mean,
happen.
I'm not sure we have as much as she might, but
Yeah.
hopefully collectively. If we got.
Questionable judgment.
Right.
Otherwise.
I think honestly, you have to be a little bit crazy to undertake a major capital project
Right, Todd?
like this. It's somewhere between inspiration and insanity. But it's a great thing when it is done.
Todd's asking about retractable screens, I'm assuming that's it.
Yes, although that's a great point. This gets back to that compromise.
Right.
It's a better movie experience with a fixed screen. Because the other thing you get into is the speaker locations. A proper movie theater has speakers directly behind the screen. It's a perforated screen, so the sound is coming from where the image is. If you're dealing with a retractable screen in a performing venue, like behind it, you're now compromising that, and you might have to retract the sound or things like that.
So if we want to double our budget, can we get LED walls?
We have done some fantastic LED screen walls. We did
Yeah.
one at the University of Pennsylvania. I don't know what the dimension is, but when I heard what the cost was, I kind of like little jaw drops a little bit. But yes, you could.
Right. That way we don't need to change the sets for any theaters.
Yeah.
Change the program.
We'll let you test it.
Yeah.
Coffee shop first.
Yeah.
With a small company based in Fishtown, does nothing but LED walls,
Hmm.
mostly museum installations. I visited our offices, we were touring Fishtown, because out there was phenomenal. They had an installation they're about to do in the Smithsonian, they had a beta test of it up in the space, it was
Yeah.
incredible.
Beautiful. That's great.
Young guys, it was super interesting.
Yeah, if you go to our website, you look at, I think it's up now, the University of Pennsylvania Law School, Silverman Hall, you can see some of those large screens that they've done in the LED. It's fantastic because they're so bright that you don't have to darken a room
Yeah.
to see it clearly.
But apparently the heat, that it adds to a room, that was pretty.
It adds some heat, but you're dealing, because they're in the space. Typically, it's just part of the room's, cooling load. In the winter, it helps with your heating bills. And actually, I forget, someone had asked about the projection equipment and the space for projection equipment. That's part of the equation too. Are we going all digital? Do you want to do film and bring in 35 millimeter, 70 millimeter? That will all dictate how much space you need for that too. There are some, like the Alamo draft houses, some of the spaces, they're tiny spaces, they actually have the projector in the space itself, and it doesn't have a separate projection.
They were just acquired last week.
Yeah, well, I know they closed a handful of their theaters, like down in Texas.
They were just acquired by, I was in the original one, they were just acquired, I think, by Sony, or
Interesting.
someone just acquired them, like, it just announced a couple days ago.
We're doing a kind of at this level of concept study for a project up in the Upper West Side, and Alamo was looking at it and ended up backing away from it, but we'll see. Same idea, a local community guy who's trying to create a movie theater where it's one sorely lacking in the community.
Sony closed on last week, or so announced it last week.
All right, so piece of cake, right? You got all your answers?
No, it was very helpful.
Yes, very.
To continue our process, we're sort of going down multiple tracks at the same time, trying to get to the point to say, ready to go. This is very helpful.
Well, happy to be of assistance to this, and hope we can do some more with you.
Yeah, we're in the throes of the information gathering stage of this exercise, and then we're gonna synthesize that data and try to figure out what happens next.
Right. Yep. Understood. Okay. Well, and Todd, nice to hear your voice once or twice there.
Yeah, exactly. For all I know.
He's not at work. He asked about getting a recording of this.
Yeah, I had it.
Okay.
Oh, man. So now I've got to remember everything I told you guys.
You agreed to it when you walked in. Great. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you for.
John.
Thanks for your time.
Talk to you.
So nice to meet you.
Absolutely.
Say hello to the guy from.
Thank you, John.
Yep. Sure thing, Todd. Senna and Rob and Daniela, right?
Yep, mostly Senna and Rob. Yeah, Danielle a bit, but yes.
So they're good partners now.
I understand, it just happened.
This
few months
started the start of the year.
Perfect, well deserved.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to have it.
Yeah, that.
Very good.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, take care.
Todd, you okay to hang on a couple minutes
No, yeah, absolutely.
till about 4:35? You're
Well,
not doing anything, right?
Another margarita.
Well, I'll let you and Lauren figure out how, if you want to chat a little bit about VMA or next steps. Anybody have any
I
thoughts?
gotta say, I was surprised that Charlie was caught footed about theaters. I thought he would have that one loaded. We've dealt with this theater, that theater, and the other.
Charlie Molesky?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. He said he was caught flat-footed, but I don't think it was on doing theaters, but
I thought he was saying, we said, what experience do you have doing theaters? Have you done theaters before? And he said, we don't really have a lot. And then he thought about it for a minute and said, well, wait a minute, let me come back to that.
I can't remember. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, we asked him at the end, but he said he had some institutional, arenas.
Performing arts
centers.
Which he's
Performing
definitely-
Arts Center. Yeah.
He's definitely done that.
Yeah.
But this,
Food and beverage.
I mean, if we're doing a movie theater and live
He's
events,
done
it's going to
plenty of
be.
food and beverage.
And VMA, you
He's
leave.
probably done
architects-
everything you can do.
Right, you leave architects their own devices, they're gonna give you a timeline, it's always longer than it needs to be. So, I mean,
Well, it raises the point of whether we go back to Vegas and ask for some more free time. Or do we think we're etched in stone at this point?
Steve's been very reasonable.
Yeah, I know,
I don't know.
Getting more than 2 years might be tough.
That's fine.
That's fine. I would say, I think the challenge, if it's VMAs we go with, I think we should, and it, having been through this exercise like you many times in life, taking the challenge to move faster, and we can create concurrent process in here that makes it happen faster.
Yep.
You know, the luxury isn't much time for design, charrette, meet, design, charrette, meet, design, charrette, meet. You're gonna lose some of that. There's a design build element that comes out of that, where we can get the box designed for the most part, and then reviewing finishes and things like that as they happen.
Yeah.
So you can certainly accelerate the design phase, but this is the capable and qualified, he knows what he's doing. I mean, do you interview other architects to see if compare and contrast? The only thing we haven't competitively, not did, but competitively sourced so far are architects. We've met with multiple, we met with multiple owners reps, operators. We haven't met with other architects. So if you want just for comparison's sake, do you want to bring another one in?
Was Cumby the one you were talking about, or is that?
Company's
Are they construction manager? They're builders.
JKRP was one
Oh,
that
JK.
brought that I think Charlie mentioned today.
Or the
too.
MGA?
JKRP did the Walnut Street Theater downtown. And someone from a partner at BCJ had given me JKRP's name also, and a contact person. So I can certainly grab them and.
Yeah, we don't want to spend too much more time on our diligence, but I think you might, I like them. I work with them on something else. They're a perfectly capable firm. He seems like a knowledgeable guy. I don't think this is that. And the complexity is probably more technical. It's design, in my opinion. Right. Its complexity is about all the acoustical elements, seating, egress, things of that nature. If it was design, I would not be as excited about VMA. Because I think I don't think that's what they excel. I think they're very good architects. I think they're very good technical builder architects. I don't think they're high design. Some of them have that capacity or ability, but that's not what I think they're known for. They're known for good institutional work. I don't think we're looking for high design right now. So I think you're comparing that with another technician.
And one of the things I think was mentioned to Todd of United is the importance of light, well-chosen lighting and signage and consistency of fonts and things like that, which can substitute for high design in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, not that not capable, but that's how, I mean, they do 99% of their work is institutional. It's schools.
Yeah, right.
So they're not often put in a position to get real lofty with their design.
Yeah, right.
They do some great design, but it's a different kind.
Yeah.
So I like them, but I think you chat with one more just so you can compare.
Yeah, let's meet with JKRP.
Yeah.
I'll reach out, I'll start the process after.
And make some fast decisions from there. Pick our horses, get the proposal in for today's group compared to D3. Sit down, make a collective decision on which one we're going with that, so we can include them in this process when we start talking about architects and bid. And then pretty soon, Steve believes we have a agreed to deal. He revised the LOI to me a couple of days ago. I think I need to send that to Lise shortly. So
okay, good.
I'll send that to Austin, okay?
Yeah, that's good.
I'll tell him to remember the friends.
Does everyone have does everybody have access to Trello?
I think so.
Yes.
We're all in.
Good, okay.
I haven't
Yeah,
tried.
so we can use that. So let's set the next meeting.
Right now.
It's easy.
Let's set the next meeting and the agenda for that meeting. When are we meeting next? Do we want to create a weekly time that we meet, or do we want to still go on the
Yeah,
fly?
send me a link and give me the second graders kind of version of how you sign on, and I'll do it.
Got it.
The guy at the board meeting just had to say, give me the doggy pony version.
So I am out of town the next 6 weeks, so I will be virtual. But don't let me drive the scheduling up to Long Island.
Nice.
I'm back and forth a little bit, but it's very spotty.
Great. So, yeah, well, let me see how quickly we can get JKRP in here. Because I think the owner's rep architect decisions are about as critical as anything. And that might dictate when we meet next, and we can piggyback something on top of that, whether it's a decision-making day after we meet with JKRP. We have, obviously the fundraising, PR, and some other decisions that are sort of floating out there to be made too. But
I'm out of the country as of tomorrow afternoon for approximately 2 weeks, but available by Zoom. Call.
Yeah, we
or-
can do Zoom. Zoom works. It's not, you know.
Yeah, and
What do we want to do with the applicants we've gotten to run the theater? We
Just
have
the
like,
one, right? Sean Crean?
no, I think we have 5.
Yeah, I sent you some today that Jeff had sent me. Well, it was development
Yep.
people, actually.
Oh, I got a ton of calls.
there are a couple that aren't. Are you talking to run the theater as an operating
Yeah,
partner or our
yeah,
employee?
There are
so
a
to
few
speak.
that are not gonna work, but there's, I think, 1 or 2 that might work too.
Yeah, there are at least 3 of those that are not appropriate to be, I thought to be people to be ED of the organization.
Agree.
I mean, it was, a guy who was a theater manager,
Yeah, I saw
taking
that.
tickets.
Yeah.
There's a few of them that are kind of like that. But what you were asking about an operating partner, right? Not an employee.
Well, also, we
Yeah.
talked about the possibility of
Or-
an alternative to just bring on a group like Bryn Mawr, was bring on an individual who has the capacity and the background to
Yeah.
be that person
Yeah.
for us.
So there is a person who's on the Bryn Mawr board. I told Scott about this, a woman named Alice Bullock. She's married to someone who used to work for me at the Phillies. She was their programming manager at Bryn Mawr Film Institute for about 3 or 4 years. She still gives talks on films, and that's her background. And now she just sits on the board. So, I mean, I'm careful not to pirate her away until we know what our relationship is with Bryn Mawr
Before-
Film. But she is someone who has the background, I think, could certainly be, the executive director easily of the organization. She's,
Alice would be great.
do you know?
Do you know her?
Alice?
I do. Yeah, yeah. She's wonderful and really passionate about film
Right.
and
Right.
has been involved with Bryn Mawr since the beginning, I think.
Do you think she has capacity to kind of diversify her interests and be community-minded too with programming?
I think community-minded is who she is.
Right.
So
So
if she was
bringing in a
interested, if
children's
she
program, whatever
wanted
else,
to do it, I think
She would dig into that.
They still live in Chestnut Hill, or they move over here?
they're in Haverford.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So they relate to the Bullet, like family used to have the dress shop across the
Christian.
street?
Christian, his father was a guy named Bill Bullitt, who's an attorney with a drinker, no.
No, was it Montgomery McCracken?
Ballard Spar or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Christian worked for me at the Phillies briefly, and then is now in asset management and stuff. And so I met Alice just a couple times. I don't know her well.
It's wonderful.
She seemed great. It's been years. Okay.
All right, good day.
So that would be separate
Okay,
from like an
so-
operations manager that you might be.
Yeah, I think we always sort of get this confused. I think we need to find someone who's gonna be hired as our first employee, who essentially is running the organization and is herding all us cats around the table, so to speak. Take a little of that burden off of Todd.
Yes.
And-
Yay.
And then there's the operating part, and that's a bigger decision about, is it Bryn Mawr Film Institute, is
Like, get
Cinema
the
Lab gonna come back to
films
us
and-
and say, yeah, who's running the show, or are we gonna do it ourselves? And I think collectively, we're all
Did anything come together?
not eager to do that.
Sorry, Todd. He was
Can
pretty
I-
calm.
Would you?
I may hit your fridge.
You're welcome to
Here.
whatever's, I got beer in there,
Yeah,
that'll help,
Oh, sure.
that'll make a difference.
This one helpful.
Got me.
I was gonna reach out to Nick Chucho. Did you hear back from him?
No, I have a
Who
couple
with?
calls out. I heard
Very
back from
stressful.
2 or 3 people. I gotta make calls today.
To determine our executive director or an operating.
That was an option. He was
Okay.
somebody who was
Yeah.
interested.
Well, I think we can end up finding that person, and I bet you it will not come through over the transom on a resume. I think it's
Mhm.
collectively all of us in here who we know this and that, and
Somebody
finding someone.
services.
Yeah, I think, and while I'd like to have it happen sooner rather than later, I think it's knowing the Alice Bass, and I bet you that's where it comes, and we want to get the right person.
I agree. There's less urgency.
I think the
around that
operating partner
sequencing.
is a more critical decision, frankly.
Well, the operating part is gonna help us figure out programming, which will help us influence design,
Yep.
to figure out how many screens we have, what the screen
Right,
should look
well,
like.
and that's a decision that we all have to about, what's gonna drive those decisions. And you have not, Sam has not reached out any further, right? Todd?
No,
to Sam
no
Scott?
calls, no emails, no nothing. I think he's waiting. I don't
Okay.
know what he's doing, but I know he's probably waiting for us to tell him what we want.
Right.
Remember,
Well,
he asked us for a proposal and I
Sure.
basically said no.
You said no, or I'll get back to you.
I said, you'll be the one giving us the proposal rather than us giving you a proposal what we want.
And you got no reaction from him?
No, he was gonna be away and he's got other
Okay.
stuff going on. He
Well,
didn't
I
feel,
think-
it felt like he didn't want to spend any more time on it until we knew what we wanted.
I get that. I think, yeah, at some point we ought to think about a check-in. If we don't think we're gonna talk to him for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or something, I think we probably get a check-in in there so we don't burn our bridges.
I'll call him today and give him an update.
Yeah,
I
just
did
say
see
we
him
haven't
yesterday.
forgotten about you, that's all.
Got
I
it.
saw him yesterday. Out of the blue, he called me and stopped by to see if we want to rent a space at Bremar Theater for a cafe. So,
Oh, the
we
space on
had-
the left.
Yeah, we had discussed that, which is originally why I asked him about coming to Wayne. And so we just reconnected briefly. And I told him, I didn't know, we don't necessarily have a lease yet. We're still in process.
Well, I don't think you need a call today, but maybe next week, Todd, it may be a nice reach out just to say, we're still in all these processes and haven't forgotten about you and definitely still have some interest in having further conversations.
Got it. I'll give him a call on the 25th.
And he said he is busy now because I think they're losing one of their managers there, that's what he said.
What's he doing? Could that be?
Yeah, so.
And that's cinema, what was it called?
Cinema Lab.
Lab, I want to say cinema cake, cinema lab.
So lab was opening, I think opening this or opened this week or last week in New Canaan.
Okay, yeah, I see.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
wouldn't be potentially be an operating manager?
They haven't come back to us.
We
I don't think they're
listen.
gonna come back to us. They got the final.
Word.
You lost
Yeah.
day one
From,
message, so we'll see if they come out where I've been told they're gonna be sending us a proposal.
okay, that'd be interesting.
Ken,
Yeah, it'd be very.
Yeah, but last time they said that was they circled back to Steve and tried
Yeah.
to make their case to why they should go with them. And now that Steve has told them again, no, I had committed to the other group, we'll see if they come back.
All right,
All right?
thanks, Todd.
Beautiful stuff, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, guys, very much.
All right, so next meeting, I'm gonna check in with the architect.
I will, yeah,
first.
I will get these guys rounded up when I get a time and dates or whatever, but I'll, you said, from this weekend on, you're out, or
This Wednesday, I'm out.
Tomorrow?
I leave tomorrow night and I'm back July 3rd, but I'm available by Zoom.
okay. And Lauren, you said you're
I'll be Zoom mostly through July.
starting soon. Yeah, okay, all right,
I'm around.
same here.
Camp started.
Yeah.
And you?
I'll be gone a week.
You're in Cape back for camp?
July
Okay.
7th.
Well, I'm hopeful, I wanna get these
Oh,
guys.
she's good. Yeah, but she's popular there.
I wanna get these guys in the next week to 10 days.
Oh my
max.
Great.
Soon. because I just
Great
think
first
we
year,
need
she had a great first year.
Good. Yeah, I checked in on her.
Good guys.
Yeah, no surprise, she was great, yeah.
Well, I think that everybody's been talking to or capable,
She
of
can
nice
teach-
job.
She can't
You
teach
know,
as
that's a
much
good
as
thing.
some
We're
of
not
the
for the wedding
preparing
plans?
for the wedding.
worrying about, I don't know, can we really like them, but can they do it? You know, kind of thing, so,
Can they do it fast?
yeah.
Right.
Well, that would be interesting with the construction people. I think most of who we're talking here are big enough. Companies are a little smaller. You
To
know,
mobilize
but I don't
on
think
that
they'd
timeline.
say, you know, oh, our capacity right now is such, you know, but
Yeah.
6 months, the next year we can't like, then, but I don't think so. Certainly not occupancy intake.
That way.
It'll start yesterday if you ask them to.
All right,
All right,
guys, thank you.
take care.
Thank you.
Have a great vacation. Yeah, enjoy. Good to get away from the heat around
You said
here.
you're going across the pond?
I am heading to London for 4 or 5 days, I have meetings, and then my son put myself to squash camp in Manchester, and then going up to Cotswold, and then picking up the boys and Wendy going up to Scotland. We think about. Actually, Wendy.
Oh, thank you. Nice to meet you.